All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Shredcast today. I'm so stoked because we have Tommie freaking Bennett, and he's an absolute killer snowboarder. If you don't know who he is, you've clearly been living under a rock. If you know who I am, you don't know who Tommie is. Like, I don't know what you're doing. But he is from Colorado, creates a ton of content, and he's also creating his first ever like brand called Benetech. So he's just absolutely killing the game. Grew up snowboarding. He's been snowboarding for like 20, 30 years, something crazy like that. So yeah, super stoked to have you. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Ready for the season. It's not here yet, which makes me want to
I
cry,
know.
but I'm excited. Right around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel that. I mean it's starting to get into the fall a little bit. At least here it is, starting to rain a little bit, getting monsoons, getting a little bit colder, but I mean Colorado, you guys start your season super early. So what, you have probably like 50 days now?
Yeah, it's something crazy. I've been super thankful. I grew up in Colorado, but yeah, there's A Basin and Keystone always fight to be the first to open, and it's literally like as early as like October 12th. I've snowboarded at Keystone, pretty incredible. But they're just as soon as they get enough snow, they open and just like October, it's incredible. And then a lot of the resorts up here stay open till like May and sometimes June. So we're literally snowboarding for a long freaking time. It's crazy. I love Colorado.
I know. I know you do. Born and raised, won't leave.
Won't leave. I have left, hated it, came back.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. When you find a place, like that's kind of how I am with Flagstaff a little bit. Like obviously I didn't grow up here, but once you like find that place where it just like fits in with your culture and like what you love to do the most, like it's hard to leave that.
Oh, 100%.
And I feel like with Colorado too, like I mean, one, you guys are like pretty well known for the kind of snow that you get. You have
Mm-hmm.
like a million mountains. Like you live in Summit County, so you're like what, 30 minutes away from most of the mountains over there?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty incredible. We have like five, six world-class resorts within a short drive. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, because Copper's your home mountain. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna buy it one day, so
That's the goal. No one really knows that, so you heard it here first. But my goal is to buy Copper because it'd be sick. I love that place so much that I would love to be involved more so and just try to make it. I mean, it's already pretty awesome, but if we could make it more awesome, that'd be sick.
yeah, I know. I'm mad because normally I get like 3 free days at Copper with my pass for Snowball, and they took it off this year.
Oh, sad emoji. That's
I know.
not sick at all.
I'm so pissed. I was like planning on coming out. Now I have to pay for it, which is lame, but
Yeah, that's a little rough for sure.
yeah, but basically, I kind of wanted to talk about like how I found you and kind of how we know each other and that kind of stuff. So, if you guys don't know, I've met Tommie in person. I've gone to both of his summer camps this year and last year. And yeah, so I broke my collarbone about 2 years ago, I think. And I was absolutely terrified to go into the park. My biomechanics, my skills, absolute trash, literally so bad. And so I was like, all right, we need to figure this out because I didn't touch metal for an entire season. I was just terrified of it after that. So hit up Tommie, went to the summer camp, and literally changed the game. Was like the best experience I've ever had. Like he's just a freaking chiller. Definitely recommend going. So yeah, that's kind of how I met you, and then ended up going again because it was just so sick. And then now you're here helping me build a business, helping me do all this. So yeah, Tommie's the best. So that's kind of how I know him. But kind of going into what you do, I wanted to go and talk about like kind of your early life and like growing up and like what it was like. So obviously you grew up in Colorado, but do you kind of want to talk about what that was like and how you got into snowboarding and all of that?
Yeah, of course. So I was super thankful to be born and raised in Colorado. My mom and dad came out to Colorado on their honeymoon and then literally never left. My dad got a job at Beaver Creek as like a heavy equipment operator and plows the roads. And so he was year round. And then we would get like really awesome discounts on rental gear and clothes and all that stuff and like free passes to be able to go ride. And so I started skiing when I was 4 years old. And then my brother started snowboarding. And of course, I was like, I wanted to snowboard too, just like my brother. And so then I started snowboarding when I was 8 years old and just fell in love with it. The very first time I ever snowboarded, my dad, he's such a legend, but he's like, here's a snowboard, go hike up, come back down. I'm like, all right, I was so stoked. And actually, I probably have some photos of me in a onesie. I can grab them later. But I'm in a onesie and I literally just like grab my snowboard, super independent kid, just go up, figured out how to strap in on my own, Granted, they're like kids boards with the single strap, so like pretty super simple. I learned how to strap in, stand up, and go down the mountain. And by down the mountain, I thought I was like an absolute killer. I was so stoked because I could go left and right. I had this crazy epiphany of like eating crap at 8 years old. And I got up and then I figured out how to balance on my own. I figured out how to go left, figured out how to go right. And I thought I was a snowboarder. I was so jonesing. Come to find out now, I was just side slipping like a boss. Just like, and then I was like, my dad would yell at me. He's on the chairlift with my brother, and I'm like waving and like eating crap and just like fell in love with it. I just like, for some reason, just like was very intuitive to me. And then my dad gave me a lesson the very next day, and I got in a ski school lesson. There's like 5 kids in our class, and they're going up the chairlift. I'm like, dude, I start crying because I'm like freaked out. I've never been on this thing. And my instructor's like, yo, bro, like calm down. Like, I'll help you out. Gave me up the chairlift, had the best day of my life, and just fell in love with snowboarding. And then just rode every single weekend, was just like a weekend warrior, just like really loved riding. And then my dad started snowboarding with us like every weekend. Eventually he just didn't snowboard with us anymore. He had other responsibilities and jobs and stuff. So he would just drop my brother and I off at the mountain. And he's like, here's a cell phone. You get hurt, give us a call. So then, of course, like I'd get hurt. I was breaking bones all the time when I was a kid. I broke my wrist at like 9:30 in the morning one day. So painful, so pissed. But I snowboarded all day until 4 o'clock. My dad picks me up like at this certain spot. I show up and I'm like, I think I broke my wrist. Can we go to the hospital? He's like, are you kidding me? You didn't tell me about this earlier. I was like, I never wanted to waste a moment on my snowboard. It's like, why would I end the day? Yeah, it's broken. Come to find out, it was broken, threw a cast on it, snowboarded the next day. Like, that's like how like I am. Even to this day, I'm still like that. And then, yeah, there's been a lot of injuries in my life and a lot of different like ups and downs. Broke my back. I've had torn labrums and busted hips that we'll probably get into later, but I've had a lot of injuries throughout my life, and it's definitely shaped my love for snowboarding and where I'm trying to take my career now. Looking back, I've been snowboarding for 28 years. Looking back now, it's like everything's fallen into place, and it all was just like, it all comes down to giving back to the snowboard community and doing everything I can to help snowboarding. That's the end goal. And if I can do that, I'll win. But whatever the win is, I just want to give back. Like, just, and that's why I create so much like educational content. It's because, like, in my opinion, there's 3 reasons why people leave snowboarding. 1, they get bored. And just like, there's other things to do. Like, it's boring. Like, that's not fun. 2, you get hurt and it's not worth the risk anymore. And 3, you have no friends to like ride with. Like, it's not that social environment. It's like, it's not a good time. So like, my goal is to get people to love snowboarding and be so involved and invested. And I think I've like checked a couple of those boxes off where I've like helped, but there's still more out there for me to create and more to help and different things for me to do to like give back to snowboarding even further. But if I can just help snowboarding, then that's really what I want to do. And it all comes from like just freaking loving snowboarding. And as a kid, just like freaking loving it. So here we are, still doing it, still loving it.
Yeah, no, it's literally the best. But I agree. Like, it's so easy to get bored, and so many people like hit that slump of like they either can't progress, or like you said, they don't have friends. Like, I know for me, if I don't have people to go ride with, like, I'm not gonna go, which is like such a bad thing. But I just get so bored. Like, I'll be up there for like a few runs and then I'm just like, screw this. Like, I don't know. I need people to like push me. And like, I guess that's just kind of my personality. Like, a lot of people are just chilling. Like, they'll just go and carve down some groomers and like they're having the time of their life, and that's super sick. I am not like that. I get so bored doing that. But I don't know. I think like if you can have that ability to want to progress, just something like as simple as like being able to do a ground spin or like a little side hit or just something like that, that just like takes the level up a notch and just makes you so hyped of like, oh my God, I like caught some air, I touched my board, like whatever it is. Like, I think that that's just so fun. And especially when you have other people around you to like hype you up and do that, like that just takes the sport that's already super sick to like the next level.
I 100% back that. And I think the 2 things that are like super sick about snowboarding is like, you can always get better. I don't care if you're the gnarliest dude on a snowboard, you could get better. That's just how it works. Whether it's like dialing in more switch tricks or catching more air or trying gnarlier tricks or going from a backflip to a double to a triple to a quad. There's always something else. And not that like, oh, we're just like constantly chasing like this perfection. It's like there's so much more out there. And to me, that's very engaging. I've been at this for 28 years. And for as long as I snowboard, I wish I was better. Like in all transparency, I wish I was better, but the mind holds you back sometimes. But there's so much still out there to progress, to learn. And that to me is very engaging. And then the social
Yeah.
aspect is like, it's way more fun to go ride and vibe with people. And I started with a bunch of people who are like, may not be the sickest shredders, but I'm okay with that because I can like push my own ability. But for me, it's like a sense of security. If I get hurt, I know my boy's there to help me. If I'm by myself, how long is it going to be before somebody finds me in a tree well or in a tree or broken leg or whatever it is? So it's like I can push myself, but I don't do that alone. I do not enjoy riding
Yeah.
alone. Plus, I just love the social aspect. Like I'm actually a pretty big introvert, but there's certain times where I'm like very like social and outgoing, and there's some times where I'm super socially awkward and quiet and reserved and like just like hide in my room type stuff. So like having the right people to ride and vibe with isn't the gnarliest dudes. It's just the camaraderie to me is like more meaningful than just like you're gnarly. But if you have some dudes who are better than you and you can like push each other, or that stuff is fun too. I have a friend who like calls me out all the time, like, oh, you didn't grab your snowboard or you didn't do this. And I don't see it as bad or toxic. I see it as like love because he's like, dude, you could be better. Like, why are you doing that? Like, go hit this jump, stop being scared or whatever. And it's like, I
Yeah.
appreciate you. It's not negative. It's like the right vibe. Like, yeah, it's good times.
Yeah. No, I agree. Cause like honestly, I think like maybe that's just kind of our personality too. But like, I mean, even when I'm riding with you and I'm nowhere near your level, like we just talk to each other. Like it's just fun. Like you kind of just like like you're just kind of like, oh, like you should hit that, or like what are you doing, or like your friend Eric or whatever, just like
Love
giving
that,
you
dude.
crap on the hill the entire time. So I mean, like it's super fun to just have that when you're riding. Cause yeah, you can go ride by yourself, and like some people love that, but I think if your goal is to like get better, which I mean, can't that be everyone's goal? Like you don't have to do like some crazy tricks, but like just getting better, progressing a little bit, adding more style, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's super fun to do with like having people around you to just like bounce off of each other, I think. And that's the only reason I ever even got into the park, was because I was riding with people that like if I didn't stay with them and pick it up, I was gonna be riding alone. And like that I didn't want to do that. So I was like, all right, we're figuring it out.
Yeah. And the content that I make is really about helping people. Now, I love freestyle, so I talk about freestyle a lot, but I also talk about basic turns and how to carve your snowboard and the fundamental body positions to help elevate your riding. My goal is to give you the foundation to take your snowboarding wherever you want. But that's also the beautiful thing about snowboarding is you could never hit a jump in your life, yet still push or explore. And so like, I'm going to go to Japan and go ride the gnarliest stuff, but not catch air. Cool. That is okay with you. That's okay because you can take snowboarding wherever you want, or you're going to be the competition dude or rail ride or whatever it is. Like there's so many opportunities. There's not one pathway that you need to follow. But my goal is to make sure that you're a fundamentally strong snowboarder throughout the content that I make, that you can make the decision where you go, but also in a safe and progressive manner. Because at the end of the day, if you're snowboarding more, then you're going to be a better rider. Therefore, you have to be able to stay on your feet more often and be able to stay safe so you can ride 200 days a year versus I went so hard in ham for 5 days, got hurt, now I'm out for 6 months. Like that's not going to get you to where you want to go or not keep you in the sport. So it's not always this linear progression, but can you develop the skills? And that's like the motivation is like, I want people to be inspired and think like, yes, I can do this. Like I want them to understand that there's so much out there and you could do it, but you need
Yeah.
these steps before. Could you do it? Yes. But here's the steps.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And that's kind of like where I go with my content too, is based off of like stuff that you taught me in terms of like the fundamentals, the biomechanics of snowboarding,
Mm-hmm.
and realize like how trash I was at that. And like, okay, I worked out a lot. Like I hear that from a lot of people. They're like, I'm a very active person. I work out a lot. I do all these kinds of things. But like there's differences in between like I'm strong and I can pick up heavy things or whatever it may be, to the actual like fundamentals of snowboarding and the skills that you have to have on a board. And that's honestly like where you start getting that progression, but also like what you're saying being able to just ride for forever, ride 200 days, ride till you're 50 years old, like whatever it is. If you have those like baseline fundamentals, then you can take that to the next level and keep growing, growing, growing without the fear of like, I'm going to break myself after 2 days. So
Yeah.
that's like super huge. And I definitely want to get into that a little bit
Hmm.
when we start going into like injuries and just like staying snowboarding longer. But kind of pivoting back a little bit after like getting into snowboarding, how like what was your goal with snowboarding? Because obviously like you started this whole social media thing a few years back, but you've been snowboarding for 28 years. So what was your goal when you started? Like were you trying to go pro, or like what was going on?
Yeah, I wanted to go pro. Like 100%. My mission in life was to become a professional snowboarder. My dad works 2 jobs, my mom works 2 jobs. Like they work super hard, blue collar. Like I wanted to use snowboarding as an opportunity to like provide for my family and do good for my dad and my mom. Like, and I have siblings as well. But like I wanted to do everything I could to help them. And obviously in snowboarding would have been super awesome to be pro and like travel and all that, but the motivation was to like help my family.
Yeah.
And I started I was intuitively like pretty good at snowboarding, but I had so many fundamental flaws that ended up being my downfall in the end of that whole pursuit of snowboarding as a profession. And it was like that was the goal. I just wanted to help my family and be a professional snowboarder, and just that was the motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you got pretty far. Was it your back injury that kind of ended that, or?
Yeah, and I was like I was like flow rider for Oakley and Bonfire and Solomon. I was traveling, like I traveled to New Zealand. I was traveling to like various competitions and competing and like really into it. And then I was training with my team at the time. I was on like a cool little scholarship deal. So I was able to like train with this team, and I had coaches and other athletes, and we were training 6 days a week, and I had one day off. And I was like getting to a point where I was like feeling confident, feeling good, took a bunch of time off school so I could like pursue getting better at snowboarding, and ended up going in the half pipe. And I was riding with my brother, and like I look up to my brother a lot, and I was like, I want him to see how, not the necessarily like how good I got, but like how much effort I put into this, and like and kind of like show off a little bit, and almost like, dude, like I'm trying hard, blah blah. And so I ended up doing like a back seven in the half pipe, and I landed on the deck, bounced and landed flat on my back, 20 feet or like 18 feet down to flat. Boom, just landed right on my back. Got up, snowboarded to the bottom in tears, just absolutely just like in so much pain. But like I'm such a person of like if you're like hurt, you got to get out of the way. Even if
Yeah,
you're like really bad hurt, like my whole thought process, like I'm in a danger zone and I'm not
yeah.
trying to endanger other people. So I'm trying to get out of the way. So I snowboarded to the bottom of the half pipe, sat there for like 3 hours. My brother's just like supportive, helping me, just like I'm in tears. He's cracking jokes. I'm crying. He's like trying to help me out. And I ended up like being, and I'm stubborn AF with injuries. I'm stubborn. So I snowboarded down at the bottom of the mountain. It took me like forever to get to the bottom of the mountain. I ended up getting food instead of going to the hospital. I was like, I'm hungry. So it probably took me 40 minutes to walk like maybe a couple hundred yards. It took me like 20 minutes to sit down in a chair because I was in so much miserable pain. 4 days later, I went to the hospital, discovered that I broke my back in 3 places. That was kind of the start of the downfall. So then I was like, all right, cool. It is what it is. Not a big deal. Mentally strong, feeling awesome. And the doctors were like, yeah, you're good. Just give it like 4 to 6 weeks. You'll be fine. Cool. Sounds
They
good. No
didn't do
big deal.
anything?
Because it was like the transverse processes. So the little chicken wings on the side. So I cracked those, and they're like, oh, they're going
Oh,
to heal on their own. They'll be fine. I was like, all right, cool. Not a big deal. So then I'm like, got cleared by my doctor to go snowboard. I'm at my house. At the time, I took a trimester off of school. So I'm not going to school. So I was like bored at my house. I was like, I'm like itching, fiending to go snowboard. So I catch a bus. I spend like an hour and a half on a bus to go to the resort, go up. Very first jump I hit was like the normal jump I always hit. It's like 65, 50, 60-foot jump.
oh yeah, just
For
normal average jump.
at that time, my first run in a half pipe, I could go 12 feet out.
Yeah, no, I
Like
know.
I could back 9, like I could back 7, like first run of the day. Like I was feeling very confident, reckless, yes. So then I ended up hitting a jump, just kind of got little funky backside 90 on this like 60-foot jump. As soon as I land, heel edge catch, smack my head, knock myself out by myself. Maybe that's why I'm scared to ride by myself, because I literally
Probably.
I like caught an edge, smacked my head, knocked myself out, came to by myself, ended up losing all short-term memory. And I literally remember like being at like the bottom of the mountain, being in somebody's car, and being in the hospital over like a 3-hour period. Those are the 3 memories I have. And so then I was like in the
That's
hospital, and
crazy.
like, so just like completely like my brain could not write a memory. So then I would say something, and then I would not remember that I asked that question. So I just repeat that question hundreds of times. Like, why does my back hurt? 10 seconds later, I'd ask the same question because I never knew I wrote that memory. I can't remember it. So I was like really messed up. And so it was like a really bad concussion. Thankfully, like all good. My parents were there in the hospital as soon as they found out that I was wrecked. I had friends come visit me that I don't remember ever being there. They were there. They spent
Jeez.
hours with me, had no idea I was there. So then compiling like a gnarly back injury, coming back, hitting a jump, knocking myself out, back in the hospital, completely wrecked me mentally. And that I spent probably the next 3 years overcoming fear. I would hit a 5-foot jump, something in the baby park. I would be in tears, so freaked out to hit that because of like all the like past trauma of like snowboarding. It took me forever to overcome that.
Yeah.
It was a gnarly experience. And I was like
Yeah.
17.
No, I bet. Because I even felt that way, and my injury was nowhere near that. And I mean, I know so many people that feel that way, and they haven't even been injured. It's just like the idea of being injured like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's honestly one of the biggest things that I see from people. And like, what keeps you from progressing or what keeps you from wanting to do something? And it's just fear, whether they've been injured or not. They just don't want to do it. Or like even at summer camp this last year, like trying to get a few people to even hit like that first little baby jump, like the idea of that's just so scary for so many
Mm-hmm.
people, which is completely fair because hitting something like that and wrecking and getting hurt or even not getting hurt, like it's just like that traumatizing fear of like what could have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And like people have gone through way gnarlier stuff than me. And I definitely don't claim that I've gone through the gnarliest stuff. What was challenging for me was after those injuries, I couldn't shake it off. And
Yeah.
that was like the mental side of stuff that was really hard, because if I hit a jump 8 out of 10 times, 8 times I'm crashing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not gnarly, but I'm not landing. I'm landing 20% of the time. So then like I just could not build the mental confidence or the mental trust that if I'm in the air, I'm okay. That was not something that I had. And I had coaches, and there was a lot of stuff that wish went different, but at the same time, we wouldn't be here. So do I really wish it? I don't know. But there's just like these things that just terrified me and mentally just couldn't overcome that. And there was like the I personally feel like if the switch of either pursuing a professional career or not is the means of, are you willing to risk it anymore? And that risk it is the financial endeavor of it, or is it the risk like the physical pain you may have to go through? And I was no longer willing to risk it. And I got to a point where I was burnt out on snowboarding. I was like, this is boring. This isn't fun. I'm terrified. This is not sick at all.
Yeah. No, I feel that because even after my injury, like that year after, like I was going, but not nearly as much as I normally did. I was just kind of like, like I didn't want to touch anything in the park, but then I would get kind of bored doing anything else. So I was just like, yeah, I'll go. But then like after a few runs, like it was like pretty much all half days. I was like, whatever, like it's okay. And then I finally just like hit that switch and was like, I want to do this again. Like I want to keep progressing. And so it was like that mental battle. So like what did you finally do that kind of allowed you to start getting into bigger stuff again and like actually like enjoying riding?
Big shout out to Krista Van Paris. So I was dating this girl, Krista, who was like a nerdy snowboarder. She was an instructor, and she kind of was just like super blunt about like, dude, like, yeah, you have these big tricks, but you're actually not good at snowboarding. And of course, I was like kind of offended by that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have like 900s and tens and like all these tricks. She's like, yeah, but you can't land anything. I was like, yeah, whatever. You know? And I was like, all right. So then I was like, okay, I was like, I'm just gonna like be open-minded and just hear what you have to say. So Chris is like, or so for example, I would do a backside 720, and as soon as I land, I was in a very compromised position. So I have this little snowboard dude I was gonna show, but uh in a really compromised position on my back knee. So I would land a 7 and dislocate my knee almost every time I did that trick. But it wasn't that the trick was bad. It's how I was positioned at the landing. I dislocate my knee. So then I would literally fall in the landing while I'm falling. I'm trying to extend my knee to pop my knee back in. And then, of course, I would just like get up and keep riding because I'm an idiot, right? I never acknowledged the fact that like, oh, I did something wrong. It's like, oh, that happened, whatever, and I'll just go again. And so then
Yeah.
and then my workaround was, well, I'm just going to go to 900 because I can land it better. So I never had the fundamentals of snowboarding to stay on my feet. And that led to a lot of problems, like in my snowboarding career and injuries and stuff. And so then she was like, let me help you. Let's do some drills. I'm like, sick. Okay. Do some drills. She's like, I want us to work on just your body position and trying to implement this one small thing every time you ride. And I was like, all right, cool. By adding like these little things, whether it's the drill or just the thought process of being more conscious of my body positions, all of a sudden, as I said earlier, instead of crashing 8 out of 10 times, I'm now landing 8 out of 10 times. Mentally, now I'm like, can now trust myself. So what I would do also is like, I'd hit this 5-foot jump 30 times, hike it over and over and over. And by the time of that 30 times, I've landed every time. So then like, why would I be scared if I've had so much success? Yeah, sometimes I went a little too big. Sometimes I knuckled. Sometimes I was flaily, but I didn't crash. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, then we're on to something. And I would take
Yeah.
that 30 repetition thought process to the 10-foot jump. Well, this time I went a little too big, went a little too small. I only crashed once out of 30 times, but I know why. Because I didn't implement what I should implement. Now I've like 59 out of 60 attempts have been successful. And now I'm starting to build my confidence, and my mind is trusting my body. My body's trusting my mind that when we're in the air, the association now is we're going to be okay. Not that we're in the air and I'm going to die. And
Yeah.
so having somebody look at my snowboarding and tell me my flaws and highlight those flaws and allowing me to create that change in my snowboarding completely changed my life. Like 1000% changed the pathway of my career. The reason I'm here today is because of Krista, and I'm extremely thankful for that. And it's just, and that's why I do what I do, because if I can give somebody one nugget that's going to help them have more fun or stay healthier and ride more, that means the world to me. Like 1,000,000%.
Yeah. No, and I thank you for that because that was the same concept that you taught me. And that's when like I was so afraid of everything. And I was coming into camp and I again like I was the same way, like not to the level that you were at where I could do a 900 and land it every now and again, but I was learning like board slides and like different jumps and grabs and stuff like that. And I couldn't land anything, or I would like randomly land it. And I was like, okay, I have the trick. I'd get it on film once and wow, I'm sick. And then I could never repeat it. And so I would just get so frustrated because I was like, oh, I could do a board slide like every 1 in 20 tries, and that was about it. And it was like small little critiques in body mechanics that I was like, wow, I've been doing this wrong this entire time. And I had no idea. And no shit, I couldn't land it every time because I was literally doing it wrong and just getting lucky. And so small things like that is like honestly like what I still work on. Like snowboarding doesn't come super easy to me, but it's like now I have those little keys in the back of my mind that I'm like, okay, I know why I didn't do it right, or let me watch the like clips and see like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. And that's kind of what I do. The same thing with like people off snow, and like why I started building this whole thing is because yeah, I'm not a snowboard coach and I'm not going to tell you these like little things that you taught me, but if you can build that same thing, that confidence of like, I can trust myself in the air, or I can trust my body can actually do this because I've done it before. And like, that's the biggest thing that I teach people when they're doing these off training workouts that aren't just like bodybuilding workouts, because that's not going to help you that much. Like, it'll help you in some things, But like when we're really talking about like you want to progress your riding and you want to do it off snow and you want to build that confidence, since that's such a thing that holds people back, is can you do it off the snow? Can you understand what your body's supposed to be doing off the snow? Do you have the strength, the mechanics? Can you land correctly? Because if you can do that and you already know you've done it, then when you go to bring it onto snow, you know your body's capable of it. And that already diminishes so much fear of like getting hurt.
What? I mean, I'm gonna flip the switch on you. So obviously we went to camp together. For those that don't know, we rode, we vibed, it was amazing. And Kaylie progressed so much, but it was because we took a step back. But what was one thing, whether it was the backboard, the front board progression that we had, what was one thing that stood out in your mind that gave you that epiphany, the aha moment?
Mm-hmm. I think like biggest thing right off the bat before we even got to board slides and tricks was how I was just snowboarding in general and landing. Like I have really, really long legs if people can't tell that on film. And so and I have a really short torso. And so I tend to lean really far with my torso just because of how my body's built. And I have a really hard time sinking down and had a really bad like dorsiflexion. So how much your like knee can go over your ankle, that like barely existed for me. So if I tried to go into a squat and like actually absorb terrain, I would just lean over, bend in my hips, and get onto my toes. And I just couldn't figure that out. And I didn't even know I was doing it. And it's definitely a bad habit that I fall into a lot. But now I can like feel when I'm doing it. And like through my training, I've been able to get better dorsiflexion. So like that was step one, was just understanding that my landing mechanics were absolute trash. And then two, the biggest thing when it came into tricks was that upper and lower body separation that I still struggle with, but at least now I know that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That when you are riding down and you're sideways, your upper body stays the same and it's your hips and your lower body that's twisting. And when I was board sliding before, I never knew that that was a thing.
Yeah. And that goes back to like those, just to illustrate it more, if you have a rail and you have your body, theoretically, it should be balanced. But what Kaylie would do is she would lean forward. Now, instantly, the belly button's over here. She's going to fall over. So then that could mean I get on, or Kaylie gets on the rail. And because she's leaning forward, but she's fighting so hard to stay on that she actually slips out and falls. Or she just happens to fall off. She's barely on the feature. So just identifying these simple body mechanics. And I think the best way about whether it's the fitness stuff that you do or the snowboarding stuff that I do, your body only moves in so many ways. So if we can understand how to utilize your body the best for snowboarding and either retrain or reinforce those body positions outside of snowboarding to bring into snowboarding or vice versa, then you're allowing yourself to give yourself the best opportunity for whether it's injury prevention or being more awesome. You're just trying to put yourself in a position that gives you a better opportunity or better chance. So then the second thing we're talking about is like, how do I put myself in the right position for a board slide? I say this at camp. I don't say as much on videos, but if you do it right, it should be easy. Yeah. If it's hard, you're doing something wrong. Those dudes who are doing triples are like, and they just kind of like, they land and their arms in, they're not even flailing. They land like perfect. They're not even on an edge because they landed flat base. It was so perfect, but it was easy if you do it right. And if it's wrong, you're something, if it's hard, you're doing something wrong. So I really put that in back to like the fundamental body positions, and then working with, I think like something that was really true to me and to you is having somebody tell you what maybe is an element that's missing, but more importantly is how do we replace that with something that's better or more functional or a better strategy or tactic. So that like, I really do believe getting feedback is like the number one thing to becoming a better snowboarder. Now, feedback could be internal. I do a lot of internal feedback. Oh, that didn't feel right. I felt I didn't grab it long enough. Or my boy's calling me out. He's like, dude, you didn't even grab your snowboard. So the internal or external feedback is extremely important for progressing yourself forward. And I think the biggest challenge that we have as snowboarders is snowboarding is the optimal position is counterintuitive. So our body naturally wants to go into a path of least resistance, which is our normal stance, or how we just perceive our world, is actually the worst thing you can do on a snowboard. But people don't know that, but it feels right. Therefore, it must be right. Well, that's actually the worst thing that you could do on a snowboard. And I talk a lot about this in my content, but it's been a bigger mission that I'm going into this season is just trying to make people understand that this body position that you're in is making snowboarding 1,000 times harder. And if you just change it, it's going to be easier. And that's a big mission that I have, like going into like the content, going into summer camp, but getting feedback and having somebody help you make those changes is going to expedite that process. And that's why like coaching is so valuable. And that's why I spend so much time doing the content, is just trying to get people to have a better time.
Yeah, no, I agree because there's so many times that like are just I mean, I didn't have anyone teach me how to snowboard. I literally same kind of thing with you when you were 8 years old. You go and you figure it out. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's great. And it can create a lot of like hype around it. And you love it. And you're like, I figured this whole thing out. That's supposed to be super hard and that's sick. But yeah, you create so many bad habits doing that. Or at least I created so many bad habits because I was like, yeah, I can snowboard. I can do all these things. But it's like you review the photos and the videos and you like start breaking down what you're doing. And you're like, that's so wrong. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
do it that way, but it's not going to help you if you're actually trying to get better and progress.
Yeah. And there's like the thing is like, can you make it from point A to point B? Heck yes, I could drive my car backwards with my e-brake on, and can I get there? Yeah, of course you can, but is that the best way to do it? No,
Yeah.
there's a better way. And so in snowboarding, there is a better way. And once you understand that better way, it helps. And like you said, most people don't take a lesson. And some people figure it out. And I've kind of noticed that more freestyle oriented people understand more of the body mechanics, not to the fullest extent, but they understand a little bit more because there is that cause and effect relationship. I lean back on a rail, I fall. Okay, don't lean back on a rail. My lead shoulder's super twisted and I keep rotating out the wrong way. Okay, stop doing that. You can kinesthetically feel that a little bit more. And I
Yeah.
think those riders get it just a little bit more, but those riders could also elevate their riding by fully understanding it, not just on the feature, but how you go in, how to do the trick and out of the feature. That could be significantly improved. But the person who's not riding park may also just not have those experiences because you have so much torque and resistance and grip from your board to your shoulder that sometimes those things are not highlighted like they would be highlighted in the park. So definitely some people can learn it more intuitively, but it's very, very, I would say 93 to 95% of snowboarders are in a less awesome position. It's a
Yeah.
significant population that could change a little thing and be a better rider. Yeah. But
Yeah.
if you don't know,
A
you're
lot
like,
of
oh, dude,
people,
I made it.
yeah, I know. And then that comes down to like style too, because style is huge. And like a lot of people come to me and they're like, there's not one way to do it. Like that's the whole
Mm-hmm,
point is it's freestyle and it's style. And that's true.
mm-hmm,
But you also should have the one, not one way, but like kind of fundamental way of riding and fundamentals to then you can add style to those. But that way that you're going to stay safer and you can progress with those same things. Like it doesn't have to be super black and white, but I think like when it comes
mm-hmm.
down to like really fundamental stuff, that should be pretty black and white in my opinion.
I love that idea, or that I'm glad that you brought that up because like my goal is to put you in a more optimal position so that you can create style. Let's just say like style to me means that you own a trick so much that you can add flair to it. But that
Yeah.
also means that you got to be able to go into the feature, you got to be able to do the trick, and you got to be able to land. That's the fundamentals that I'm talking about, is how do we approach it? How do we do it? And how do we exit safely or more chances of landing? Because you could have the sickest style and like quote unquote sickest style, but if you never land it, no one really cares, right? So like the
Yeah.
foundation is just like, okay, how do we put ourselves in a better position to land, or give yourself that ability to add the tweak and add your creativity? And is there multiple ways to do it? Heck yes, there is.
Yeah.
But can we just put ourselves in a better position to land more often? So like it's, to me, it's like almost black and white with a little bit of like, yeah, there's some flexibility in there. We also got
Yeah.
to take into consideration that like our backgrounds are completely different. Our range of motion is different. Our bodies are
Yeah.
designed different. So we
Yeah.
can't all fit into one cookie cutter little square, but that square could be pretty big and we could have some options within that little play because the body can only move in so many different ways. But there are, like, I am thankful I have extremely good ankle flexibility and I can get away with a lot of stuff. So somebody
Yeah.
may have to overcompensate or adjust, but the principles are theoretically the same, but just making small altercations based on your desired outcome, as well as like your body type. That's something that is a real big deal.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I agree on that. And like just training people with like small things like that when it comes to like takeoffs, staying in the air, like just for jumps in general, and then landings. Like those should all be within the same realm to keep you safe and to be able to go into that. And like you said, with everyone's body being differently, the way it's built, how much range of motion you have, like those are all things that you can train and like get better at if you don't have those things. But you still have to understand like how those work together in terms of snowboarding to then make it easier on you and like be able to add those things later so that you still have that same thing. I don't know
Yeah.
if that made any sense, but
No, I totally makes sense. And for me, I like to teach or coach a lot of the fundamentals that you would need. Like, let's say I'm teaching you a 360. I'm teaching you the fundamentals of not a 360, but how to wind up, how to take off, how to throw so that you're not plateaued at a 360. I would rather give you the skills so that if you wanted to, that you could go from the 360 to a 5 to a 7 to a 9 to a 10 to a keep on going because you understand the foundation of the maneuver. And that's how I teach at summer camps. That's how I teach in the content is like, take this foundation that's going to last forever. I'm not just teaching you a trick. We will use, as we get all this fundamentals down, you're going to get a 360 as a byproduct, but I don't want you to be limited. And that's my coaching background. I've coached for like recently retired from coaching, but I coached for a long time where it's like competitive athletes trying to go to the Olympics. I can't teach you a 360. I need to teach you everything to get you to the 900s and 10s and 14s and that stuff. So I really think teaching those skill sets are more important than teaching a trick because I want you to carry that through the rest of your career. And I still do that with the content that I have now. I don't just teach you a trick. I teach you the foundation so you can go wherever you want.
yeah. And I guess kind of like going into how you got into social media is that because you like you're like, okay, going pro wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. I'm injured, I'm scared. And your girlfriend was like, you need to figure this out. Like these are your fundamentals. Is that when you finally figured it out, you're like, I need to share this with more people? Is that why you did it? Or how'd you kind of get into the social realm?
Funny enough, that's like not at all. I started understanding. So when I was 17, I broke my back. For the next 3 years, I just absolutely just struggled in life. Then maybe it was 2 years, I met Krista at 19. And then like around 20, I started like kind of figuring it out. And then I became a snowboard coach and coached on the weekend with just like a development program and got into coaching. And it wasn't like I wanted to share my knowledge, not at all. It was like my old coach was like, yo, I got a job opportunity if he needs to pay some medical bills. I was like, yeah, I got so much debt right now. And I was like super irresponsible with money because I was like 19. I didn't have help from my parents. And I put it all on credit cards instead of just like maybe just keeping it in like whatever, like paying them. So I put it on credit cards, paid all these debt. Ended up having a couple little operations on my back to try to help like alleviate the pain as well. Thing that I mentally I struggled with for 3 years, but I was in a significant amount of pain. I was laying in bed for 10 hours. I'd sleep 2-3 hours a night because my pain was so significant. And so eventually I was on my own, moved out, and then I had got a bunch of debt and whatnot. Moving on. Started snowboard coaching and did that for like a while for probably, so let's see, almost like 10 years at that point before I even started social media. Moved across, worked for various programs, became a head coach, ran boarding schools, did all this stuff. And eventually I went to this one boarding school and just didn't see eye to eye how things were going. And I was like, you know what? I'm over this. I think that I could do a better job if I wasn't limited by those around me, because there was times where I felt like I wanted to do stuff and I never even had the opportunity to be successful. It was automatically shut down. And so I was like, you know what? I want to just do everything I can under my own umbrella. And if I fail, it's because of me. If I'm successful, it's because of me. And so my back was against the wall. And one day I like always wanted to like, not always, but like at that time, I wanted to post on social media, but I was always scared because I was always worried about people judging me and me being wrong and just insecurity, honestly. And so now I'm starting my own coaching program. I'm on my own. I have no backup plan. I started posting on social media. I just started posting on Instagram in like August and just did a couple like how to's, like here's how to do a back three, boom, posted it, no traction, don't care. Posted for like 2 weeks. And this random account picked up my video, republished it, and it got like 150,000 views. I gained 1,000 followers overnight. And I was
Dang.
like, holy cow. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. But the biggest thing that changed my life after the back injury was like having the courage to just believe in myself and do it.
Yeah.
And now I'm posting on social media. All of a sudden, I grew 1,000 followers. I was like, this is insane. I'm gonna keep going. And then I just pretty much carried that momentum till now. And that was like literally in like 2019. So like right before COVID and all that, I started posting on social media, went down to New Zealand. I was coaching, posted some stuff, grew to like 15K. And then like October of 2009, no, it was November 2019, I started posting on YouTube, and I started doing that. And then COVID happened and it kind of shut everything down. But I grew like 14,000 followers on YouTube in like 3 months, and then maybe
Wow.
3, 4 months, and then probably like 20K on Instagram in that same amount of time, or a little bit since August, so a little bit longer. But just like the whole thing was like, I want to help people, but I got to have the courage to trust and believe in what I say. And if people don't agree with me, that's okay. That changed
Yeah.
everything. That's the reason why we're here today. That's
Yeah.
courage.
No, that I agree. I mean, in a different realm, but like same thing for me. I was like so miserable in what I was doing. And I was just like, I never wanted to be on social media, honestly. Like I never had like that goal of like I need to post on social media, but I was yeah, I wanted it to be on me. I was tired of working for other people and I was like, I have this passion for something and if it can help other people, like why not? And it was really just that confidence of okay, I guess we're just gonna do it and see what happens and just keep going and wait for people to see if they like it. And yeah, that whole confidence thing and like being scared of what people are gonna say is huge. But
Absolutely. It's, snowboarding is extremely supportive and amazing sport, but it's also going to be very toxic. There's a lot of people who do not snowboard a lot, but have a lot of opinions on snowboarding. And because it's social media, there's, the classic saying is just the keyboard warriors, they're like talking a lot of
yeah,
smack, and that's okay. Like I've been thankful to avoid a lot of that. And I think it comes down to staying true to snowboarding and being honest. Like, hey, here's a Zichi front board. This is why it's not awesome. Instead of I have the perfect backboard or front board and I'm amazing. And they're like, this is trash. Like, it's just being honest about it. Like, this isn't sick. And like, I see what you could say. Now I just was honest, but I also led it into an opportunity of like a teaching moment. Like, this was trash, but here's why. Also like just holding high standards for the content that I have. If it's a crappy front board, I'm not going to post it. Meaning
yeah,
like I feel like I need to hold high standards so that when you watch my stuff and you see that I'm doing a front board and you want to mimic my front board, that it's got to be a good trick to mimic. If I'm doing crappy ZG stuff and now I'm letting down snowboarding because I'm not holding true to the snowboard culture or the cultural preservation of what snowboarding is,
yeah,
then I'm letting snowboarding down. So I think those two things, like holding high standards, being transparent, and then when people talk smack, cool. I restrict them, or it's just like it doesn't matter. Like I've done this
yeah,
long enough now where it's like, cool, I don't care anymore. In the beginning, I did. I was really hurt by those kind of comments, and then eventually I was like, it doesn't matter anymore. I've grown a lot of thick skin over it, but just
yeah,
doing my best to stay true to snowboarding has helped me avoid a lot of the conflict that I see other people who are self-induced causing a lot of challenges. But sometimes, people do it for attention, and yeah, the attention's nice and all, but my goal is to do good by snowboarding and people. And it's not just like, oh, give me attention because I'm amazing. No, let me help you. Little
yeah.
different little perspective on it all.
But yeah, I agree. I think that that's like a huge thing, especially for what you're doing. And I mean, like, I don't know if you've heard my intro to this podcast, but for everyone listening, there's a part in the intro to my podcast that says no tindies. And that's actually Tommie's voice saying that I stole from
I don't know. Send
another
it.
video.
I got you back.
But yeah, like I agree. I think like there's an aspect of snowboard culture that like some people that are really invested in the sport like really stay true to. And then other people that are like the weekend warriors or it's something that's just not important to them, like then whatever, like it just goes away. And I think it's fine either way, but I also think that you have to respect like what snowboarding came from and what people um deem as being snowboard culture. And like if you don't want to be a part of that, then that's fine. But I also think that it is like a big part of where snowboarding is today. And so like small things that people like get super like anal about, it's like, well, maybe there's a background for that. Or if you think
Mhm.
something's not sick, but other people are like, I just think that's style. I'm like, or it's just not sick. Like,
Yeah.
so I think that like there's certain things that come down and it's like you can have your own opinions, but also a lot of these like snowboard culture opinions that are out there that like a lot of the people really into snowboarding hold is because there's like a background on it, or it's just like it means something to a lot of those people.
Yeah, it's super interesting nowadays for sure. And I think like Tindy's a thing that's like I'm an advocate for Tindy in a way of like don't grab it, but it's also like twofold because what I don't want to do is have people making fun of you behind your back. Because the thing is, you
Yeah.
grab Tindy. For those that don't know, it's not cool, but it's people are going to make fun of you behind your back, and no one's going to tell you, well, I'm your coach. Like I need to tell you what you need to know, not what you always want to know. So it's like instead of just like letting you get roasted in the background, like why don't you be a part of the culture and understand why and be like part of something, and it is a community and it is cool, and I want you to be accepted, and I want those weekend warriors who are way gnarlier than me because they're driving 4 hours to go snowboard for 3 hours and the resort shuts down and they're staying another 2 hours hoping it opens.
Yeah.
Those dudes are like so committed and they're so gnarly, and then they, it's like, and they're spending so much money and investing money into the industry to be able to provide jobs and opportunities and keep the culture alive. Like, I don't want those dudes to be getting made fun of behind their back. And then they're like, this sport sucks. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I also feel like we need cultural preservation, like snowboarding. Like, it's not that it's a cool club, that it's like, but it is the culture, and like, yeah, come join it, like come be a part of something special. So it's like
Yeah.
snowboarding can be super inviting and inclusive, but it can also be a little harsh and that. But I just want people to have an amazing experience, but I also got to kind of tell you what you need to know. And hopefully, sometimes it comes off as like something else, but I know I try to tread that lightly because I want it to be an opening, inviting experience and not just you're lame because you do this. Like, here's why you don't do it. Stop getting made fun behind your backs. No one's telling you.
I know. Dude, it's so funny because I actually brought that up to one of my friends because people were hating on me for it. I was like, you know, you do you, whatever, just don't grab
Yeah,
Tindy.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
but they were I brought that up to one of my friends and he was like, yeah, like the first time I ever grabbed Tindy, like I thought it was so sick, it was awesome. And then like the sickest dude on the mountain made a whole highlight reel on how not sick I was. And then I like never wanted to stop. I was like, oh God. I was like, yeah, you can't do it because people are gonna do stuff like that, which I don't agree with. But like kind of going back into like that weekend warrior stuff, like those are the people you want to be a part of the sport because like you said, like they're driving, like they love it so much that like they're gonna do everything they can. They're gonna take all of their free moments during winter. They're gonna spend all their money on it. Like those are the people that you're like, yes, like you want to grow, you love this, and you want to like spread it to those people that love it as much as you do.
Yeah. Like, there's dudes who snowboard 200 days a year. And like, obviously I'm one of those dudes. And like, I'm super thankful and super stoked on that. But, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but like people get so pissed on busy weekends and they're so angry and so upset. I look at it as like appreciation and a thank you, because the lines are so massive that the resort's making money that they can invest into having a sick park. Like, to
Yeah.
me, there's a correlation. If we had a Christmas weekend and no one's there, that place is shutting down. So like, I don't mind having busy lines. I go early, I show up, I ride for 2 hours. Maybe I go home, maybe I stay, maybe I go. Don't tell anybody this, but I go to the beginner hill and go spend my day there doing flat ground tricks or riding switch or going helping people or doing whatever. Cause then I can stay on the mountain, have a good day. But there's ways to make it amazing. But that means that like the industry is having money. That means that
Yeah.
there's the pie is big and there's abundance and there's room for everyone to have all these cool different snowboard companies and all these different clothing companies and goggle companies having this stuff because there's people that are investing into our industry. I'm okay with the busy lines because I'm going to go ride
Yeah.
Monday. No one's there. And if it is
Yeah.
busy, cool. I'm going to go find something to do. I'm going to go find a little stash and go backflip, like that's just my opinion. Like I know a lot of people get heated on like crazy busy weekends, but I also understand that you don't want that Disney World experience. And I drove 4 hours to be in a lift line that sucks. There's a lot of
Yeah.
hate towards like the some of the local cultures. Like I hate busy weekends. And I have a different opinion. I just appreciate it. I think it's an opportunity for us and thankful for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't like hate on it sometimes. Like if the freeway from Phoenix shuts down in the winter, like I'm all for that. But
Yeah.
if
Understandable.
but
Yeah.
I also get that like there are certain mountains like Copper that will take the money that they get from that and they will invest it into getting newer things and getting better parks and stuff like that. And then there's other mountains like Snowbowl that will not do that and are
Yeah.
trying to get rid of all their parks, even
Yep.
though
True.
they
Very
charge
true.
$400 for a day ticket, which is BS.
How
So,
much for a
I
day ticket?
mean, Prime Winter, I think they surpassed their own highest one last year, which was like 290. I think this year they hit 350.
Fantastic. It's another reason to get a season pass.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was ridiculous. And yeah, now they're trying to get rid of parks. So I mean, super
Yeah.
fun. But
Well,
I
looks like you're
agree. I
moving to
do think
Colorado.
I know. I know. But yeah, I do agree. Like the more people that we can get in it, like I know it sucks on some rounds, but on other things, it is great that you can have that income coming in for these mountains so that they can continue to improve and make things better and maybe even expand so that there's more room for all of these people and stuff like that. But I think just sharing the love for how sick this sport is just like what's amazing about it, honestly.
Yeah. And it's been like it's been an interesting balancing act, kind of going into the social media side of stuff. Is like, I don't want to be known as the beginner level coach.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's where I can help the most amount of people. So it is a balancing act where, like, yeah, I have some like techie, gnarly tricks or whatever tricks for me that are more techie. I like posting that stuff for like the other style of rider or whatnot. But I also like know that a lot of the beginner to intermediate dudes need a lot of the help. So I definitely try to have that diversity in my content. That's not just here's how to turn. I made 100 how to turn videos, but there is like a bunch of other stuff. Like here's a bunch of gnarly carving advanced tricks. So that my goal is you start with me on your very first day of snowboarding, you learn my content or learn from my content. But then as you get gnarly, you can still see my content. So yeah, I don't want to just be boxed into like this one realm.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big part of that too is like from what I've seen is a lot of beginners or people that are new to either snowboarding or just freestyle in general is like they need all of those like a lot more stuff to learn what to do. Like they need a lot more instruction, they need a lot more criticism on certain things or like they need to understand what their feet are supposed to be doing while their hips are doing this and their arms are doing this and it's like a lot more which might need a more in-depth breakdown for like a beginner trick versus
Mm-hmm.
like the intermediate to advanced people like they kind of know what they're doing they just need like a little tweak here and there or like a little tip for this and all of a sudden it changes the game or at least a lot
Yeah.
of my friends like that's what honestly changed for them was like one little thing and now they have it and they can keep progressing so I
Yeah.
think like that's cool that even some of your content that might be deemed like beginner like some of your turning things or stuff like that that same kind of skill or little thing that you're breaking down can be applied to like a big spin for an intermediate to advanced person. That little tweak can actually like fix their whole thing.
Well, at summer camp, we spent a lot of time and it's trying to find a balance of it. But like we spend so much time, like, here's how you stand on your snowboard and here's how you set up for a jump. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? That comes back to being able to carve or turn appropriately to be able to be set up. So absolutely, those beginner things are very applicable towards that gnarly stuff. And that's again, you know, building blocks of all the skills and stuff that we can take throughout snowboarding. But yeah, there's like turns are like the gateway to everything you want to do in snowboarding. So just trying to make the content as diverse as possible and just get people hyped and stuff. And I got a lot of exciting plans for this winter and got a couple cool things that I want to do. So it should be fun.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to step it up. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just like do the same thing. I want to like make the best content possible. And
Yeah.
year after year, I just like if I can make a little improvements, it's gonna get there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm trying to already think of like what I'm doing in the next like 2 years too. So super sick. And what I do kind of want to talk about, I know we kind of mentioned like snowboard culture and like summer camp already, but I kind of want to talk about that in the sense of like Mount Hood and like
Yeah.
how special like Mount Hood is to snowboard culture and like pushing out so many like pros, but then also just like why did you choose Mount Hood for summer camp and just kind of like going into a little bit of that.
Yeah. I think Mount Hood is like this incredible place. There's very few places to ride within, the United States. So it's like very few places to ride that are that freaking good. Now there's other places you can ride, but Hood being a glacier, and so those that don't know, I run a summer camp every summer. You come ride with me. I got you get like an Airbnb. I have a filmer. I hire a filmer for the whole time. I got other coaches, and people come in. We ride, we vibe, but our mission is to make people as good as possible while you're there. So we structure our camp to allow that. Well, that also comes into consideration of like why Mount Hood. Well, Mount Hood has an entire mountain to ride, meaning we're going to go work on our switch riding. We're going to go work on our carving. We're going to go work on upper lower body separation. We're going to get nerdy, but we have a mountain that allows us to do that. But it's on a glacier, so it might be 6 to 8 inches of slush. Surprisingly enough, it is not sticky because the glacier underneath keeps everything cold. All the melted snow goes down, so you don't have that sticky feeling while you're riding, and then you're able to like snowboard and have a good time. And if you fall, slush, not as dangerous, right? You reduce your chances of getting hurt because of the conditions that are there. And so having a place that has incredible conditions, and the parks are awesome because there is a gnarly park, an intermediate park, a beginner park, and a beginner park. There's so many different things. So then you're separated from everyone. As much as we want to be inclusive, the separation is healthy because you're not sitting next to a Red Bull dude who's doing this gnarly stuff and you're intimidated. No, you're next to the person who's doing the same trick as you and they're struggling just like you, and you get to ride and vibe and socialize and be a inclusive community at the level that you're at. And that is what makes Hood so special, is that you do have the Red Bull athletes, but you have the dudes who are there to become better at snowboarding. And there's other camps out there that are super awesome, that are more geared towards having fun. Super sick. I'm more gearing all my stuff to progressing your snowboarding, and we have fun as a kind of like a byproduct. But my goal is to make you better. And that's like how we structure our day, how we structure everything. Everything we're thinking about is how do we improve your riding? So then going back to like the filmer dude, I hire a dude to film, Matt, big shout out to Matt. He films. His job is to stand on the knuckle for 8 hours a day, 6 hours, whatever. We exaggerate a little bit. That dude's standing on the knuckle filming everybody. We get 8 hours of footage. We get a lot of footage.
It's the only reason I have any content. So
there we go. Big shout out to Matt. So then we take all that content, we put it on a hard drive, we pop it on the computer, and we sit there for 2 hours breaking down everyone's riding. Now it's not boring. I freaking love it, but everyone's like so engaged because they're like, oh, I see how you messed up on that. And I was doing that too. Oh, or I'm going to learn that backflip tomorrow. I can see what you're doing today, see the feedback and have that in my mind for tomorrow. Or a lot of big things is like, Kaylie, you're bending at the waist and your spine's going down. Stop doing that, in a very gentle way, of course. Like, hey, as you're riding in this feature, notice that you're bent over. You're like, I'm not at all. Well, here's the video. Yeah. You are, and you're like, I thought I was perfectly straight up and down, and now kinesthetically is different from reality, or perception versus reality. You're like, oh, I need to exaggerate the spinal position to allow me to use my ankles and knees to absorb this, whatever. So having that, everything that we do at camp is trying to get that weekend warrior or that rider who still has like 5s and 7s. Like we've had dudes like that, like get those dudes to be better. We design our whole camp trying to progress. And we talked about it earlier with feedback. This is your chance to get feedback right now and then get video and get more feedback later. Like feedback, without getting too much or overcomplicating
it. No, I don't think it's overcomplicated at all. I mean, I like to dive really deep into some of that stuff. Some people might not as much, but I think either way, you're gaining something, because even if you don't land a trick, like I tried for 2.5 days straight of getting that stupid tame dog and never landed it. But it's like, now I know exactly why. I have all the videos of me eating it. I know exactly why. And so then when I have powder again, like I guarantee I'll get it in a few tries. And I'll know exactly why I'm doing things wrong, and I'll be able to feel it. Because I do think that like people say like mind to muscle connection, whether it's like snowboarding and you're actually on the board or you're on the floor, like you sometimes can't feel the things that you think you can, or you think you're doing something right. And it's not until you physically see it and then also feel it that you can like connect those two things together. And I think that's what's so big about going to Hood. One, like you mentioned, you can be beginner for the baby part, complete ride on smallest features in the world, or you can be super sick and go ride into medium large park with all these people and still progress. And then you get all that sense of like, first of all, there's pros there all the time, which is absolutely sick. And they're so chill. They're always down to help
Mm-hmm.
you, catch a ride with you. Like it's just super sick. And then you get to learn all this stuff at the same time. Like it's honestly like the best time ever. Like whether you go on your own, whether you go with Tommie, whether you go with another camp, like it's highly, highly, highly recommend. If you love snowboarding, like Mount Hood is the place to be for that.
It's so majestic. It's this beautiful experience. 70 degrees out. It's freaking hot. The
It's
sun's
so
gnarly. I
hot.
got my hood on because I'm trying to protect my freaking neck and all my skin, but it's like 70 degrees out on the mountain. And it is this like very unique, amazing experience. Yeah, the first time you ever ride the snow, it's like, whoa, I got to figure this out. Once you do, it's really, really incredible experience. And then, I think for a lot of people, it's just being able to take the feedback and create change. And I think that's like the hardest thing is having that kinesthetic control over your body to create that outcome. It's really easy to be trying a gnarly trick and you black out. Or I thought I was doing it differently, but my body is taking over and doing it the same. Those things are really challenging to overcome, and being able to be in an environment that's supportive of that and other people trying those tricks. And sometimes you get the tricks, sometimes you don't, but regardless, you have something to carry with you for the future. And my goal at camp, again, is give you a bag of tools to take with you for the rest of your snowboarding career. No, you didn't get the front flip, but you put a lot of power into it, a lot of energy into it, and you tried it. You may have never tried that if you weren't there.
I wouldn't
Or
have tried it.
and so putting yourself in that position, and like, there's and something I talk about, and we talked about it a little bit. Some tricks take one try to learn. Some tricks take 100.
Yeah.
Regardless of which one it is, I have trained myself to be emotionally removed. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if I get it or don't get it. What did I learn? That's always what I ask. What did I learn?
Yeah.
What can I do? What did I learn? Oh, I learned that this worked well. I learned that I do not do that. And it's constant evaluation every attempt. And then if I'm emotionally removed, then I can remove the frustration. And I talk about this a lot with my competitive athletes who are emotionally involved. The more upset and tense, the more upset and intense you are, the more your body's rigid. Imagine diving into a freaking lake that's frozen. You come back out and you're shivering and shaking. And now I'm going to go try that front flip. My body doesn't respond the same way. When I'm angry and upset, my body doesn't respond in the same way. So that's something that we worked on. It was just like, how do we be emotionally disconnected? And for some reason, I feel like snowboarding highlights a lot of frustration, whether it's expectation or whether it's whatever it is. It gets really people upset. And I've been there. I know that. I've been there for a long time. But being able to be emotionally removed is like something that's kept my snowboarding exciting. Whether I get the trick or not, it doesn't matter. What did I learn from it? And that's a big lesson that a lot of people learn at camp because they've never been coached, and they expect to go to camp. They expect to be able to do double backflips, but they've never hit a jump. Setting appropriate expectations can be really challenging. But that's like a big thing that you got to do.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to a lot of stuff with like the content you make, how you got out of fear, how I got out of fear. Like it all just comes down to a lot of like biomechanic fundamentals, whether it's on snow or off snow. Like once you have that and at least an understanding of it, you can make those progressions for the most part on your own or with like a few things here and there, getting feedback from other people. But it's like learning all of those, the little things, like that's how you really start to progress your snowboarding and like get actual tricks. It's not like I'm going to go in this and I'm going to learn this, and this trick. And now I have these 4 tricks nailed down. It's like maybe you could do that, but realistically, you're going to learn, okay, I need upper body to go like this on this trick, and I need my toes to dig in at this timing on this trick. And it's like small things like that that allow you to actually progress.
Right. In from my coaching experience for the last 15 years, it's been a really hard balance because I need to give the athletes or the campers or whoever it is that I'm working with, you need the foundation. But foundation is hard to measure. It's less tangible than a trick. So yeah, I become a way gnarlier snowboarder and I landed every single jump that I tried. but I didn't do this trick. Well, this is the highlight. This is, where all the money is or whatever you want to call it. And so that's been like a really interesting balance of like, I need people to get tricks, but I also need to give them the fundamentals. And if we do one more than the other, then it's not going to be balanced. It's not going to have the outcome that we want. We only focus on the trick. Well, you got bodied 37 times trying this trick. Well, you still need this, but you need that. So it's an interesting thing that us as coaches behind the scene are trying to balance, is like, how do we get people to have those small wins, but also making sure that they get the skills for the next season so they stay alive and stay healthy and stay stoked, but they're also stoked by getting this trick, but it was sloppy and not that sick and you're never going to land it again. Like it's a balancing act on the coach's aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and then same thing with like fitness too. Like I'll have some of my clients and they'll be like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Or like, I've never had that part of my body like be sore. I've never tried like that move before. And I'm like, yeah, because that's something you've probably never done in snowboarding either. And it's probably going to help you having strength in that range of motion that you didn't even know you needed. So it's
Yeah.
small things like that that end up translating that make such a huge difference.
Yeah. But we also, and I'm guilty of this too. Let's just say in my normal snowboarding, man, I really don't want to ride switch. It's like, it sucks. It's hard. It's not fun, but I want to land a 180. I want to land a 540. Man, I want to be so
Stop
sick
calling
at
me out.
snowboarding. This is not geared towards you. This is like most people, right? I don't want it, me personally, like when I'm not a competitive athlete and I'm not coaching competitive athletes, I don't say you need to go snowboard and train switch. No, I don't say that. But it's a balance of like, yeah, I want to be better at riding or doing a 180 or being able to do that cool trick. Then you need this to have that. It's like a recipe. If I don't have this, then I can't make that, and the outcome's completely different. So yeah, it's like, I don't want to just be like, you need to train this, but like, how do we make those things you hate more fun, because it's going to lead to an opportunity like a 540, go do switch sucks. Well, how do we make it fun? How do we make it a good time? I don't want snowboarding to feel like a task. I don't want to be like, oh, I have to go do this and I need to check this off and this is dumb. Now, if you're a competitive athlete, it's going to be a very different mindset. But if I'm a weekend warrior and I have this goal, well, then I need to make sure that it's fun. And like, even when I'm with my athletes, I do make it fun, and I want them, because I really believe if you're having fun, you're going to spend the next 20 years in snowboarding to give yourself to be a professional athlete. But sometimes we just got to be a little bit more direct. Like today we're riding switch, you need to go do 10 switch jumps. Yep. Blunt. Where with me, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try 10 switch jumps and I'm going to try to not die. And I don't know. It's essentially the same thing, but it's not the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, you just like, regardless, you just want to have fun and engage in it. I don't want it to feel like a task. Unless you're going to the Olympics, honestly, you might have to treat it like a task.
Yeah, true. But like, that's the other thing is like, if you're not having fun in what you're doing, like, don't do it. Like, I am extremely type A. I'm super hard on myself. I've only ever done like athletic, like I've never done team sports. I've always done like individual sports, which doesn't help the fact that I'm so hard on myself in everything that I do. And so like, this last camp was so hard for me because I was getting so like emotionally involved in so many things, to the point where I like wasn't having fun. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't what I'm trying to do. Like, I don't need to be a pro. I'm not trying to go pro. So it's like, if you're not having fun, like, pivot, do something else that you are going to have fun with. And like, that's where like that style comes in, and like doing those other things. Like, same with training, like tell to people all the time that like want to get better at snowboarding. I'm like, if training is something that you want to do because you can't go snowboard 200 days a year and you want to try this instead, like, have fun with it. Like, if my style isn't good, like, go do yoga with mobility duo, go do something else. Like, go do something that's fun for you that like still makes you love snowboarding.
I agree. And like, a lot of my fitness is motivated to make snowboarding way, like, either reducing injury or having more fun. Like, I like the gym. I don't love the gym. Like, if I could be fit and not go to the gym, I would choose that option. Natalie, on the other hand, she's my girlfriend slash fiance slash wifey. She loves the gym. She goes there. She's like, I'm going in. Like, we do CrossFit together at like 6 a.m. She's there at 4:30 doing stuff, feeling good. Like, she loves it.
Freaking ripped.
Yeah, she's ripped, but she like, loves it. She enjoys it. She's like, as much as I want to snowboard is as much as she wants to work out. And it's not for a competition. It's not because I need to look this way. It's like she loves moving and pushing herself and mentally challenging herself. Like, let's say we're going to do 100 burpees. If you don't know what a burpee is, you go down to the ground, you stand all the way back up. It's kind of not sick at all. She'll do that.
No, they're
but like,
kind of the worst.
they're the worst thing ever besides catching an edge. But she does it, and she'll do this thing, like just work on her mindset. Like, I hate this, but I'm changing my mind to be like, I love this. And let's see if I can make this 100 burpees fun. How am I going to do that? And like, she just loves moving and doing that. And again, it goes back to like perception, and your attitude is like such a big part of it all. And even how like, setting expectations and all that stuff. But it's just like, for me, I like the gym for getting the byproduct of what it's going to benefit, or the benefits for snowboarding. That's me. That's my motivation.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. So but I do go to the gym. I love CrossFit. It has its ups and downs, but what I love about it, somebody tells me what to do, and they're going to tell me to do stuff that I probably wouldn't do, which is what I need. And I get to go work out with a bunch of people. That's why I love that aspect of it. I think sometimes the program's not sick. I think it could be blah, 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 but I'm also been doing fitness long enough to be like, I'm not going to be reckless and dumb and dangerous to go get hurt, to go not snowboard. But there's a lot of benefits in trying to find a program that's right for you, or a program that's like, you know what, Kaylie style is so sick. I love what she programs. Then like, yeah. But at the end of the day, for me, I just want to go snowboard.
Yeah, and I mean, for a longest time, like I got into fitness for like completely other reasons, and then I got bored with it. Like so many people fall in and out of motivation with like trying to be healthy and like create habits and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, I want to get better at snowboarding, and I know I have all these skills that I'm lacking. Let me go to the gym for those, because I can't snowboard right now because it's summer, or I can't snowboard because I'm injured, or I was living in California and I was that total weekend warrior and I had to drive. So it's like, okay, during the week I can do this instead. So it's like finding that external motivation at the gym, on the mountain, whatever it is in your daily life that like keeps you going and just makes snowboarding like so much sicker, honestly, in my opinion.
Okay, I got something for you though. Top
Okay.
3 workout movements are going to play the biggest impact on someone snowboarding. You go, and then I'll go.
Okay. I'd say number 1 is anything single leg. So pistol squats, like if you can do like any kind of like cross hack squats where you're like mostly on one leg, single leg movements like that are going to be huge. Biggest thing is a lot of people deal with like knee health and hip health issues. So a lot of things for that come from your ankle and your hip. Well, yours is different, but coming from your ankle and your hip. So doing like lateral plane movements. So like Copenhagen's, or like again those cross hack squats, stuff like that is going to be huge, where you're moving both your abductors and your adductors, which are your internal, external of your legs and your hips. Those are going to be big for knees and hips. And then probably next one is any sort of rotation in your core. So many people think like core and they just do like abs, and I'm like, cool, that's for physical stuff. But if you actually want to improve your snowboarding, your rotation, stuff like that, doing core movements that incorporate rotation, whether that's like incorporation with like a leg movement, like I'll do like twisting stuff as I'm doing like leg movements, like reverse lunges with twists, or even just grabbing a band and like controlling that core movement, are going to be like top 3 huge things for snowboarders.
Boom, right there. That was amazing. I like the third one. What I would add to that is being able to do rotation of movement, but then be able to definitively stop at a certain point. Where I like to take that is for doing a frontside 360 or backside 360, being able to wind up, generate that power, but being able to have a definitive contraction of the muscle and stop, so that when you go snowboarding that you throw, but then our whole entire energy moves together, instead of having like, yeah, you threw it hard, but then you're super sloppy and you actually diluted a lot of the energy that you created. So rotation of moments where you come to a complete stop, that's like a big one for me. Love that. So adding a little add. I love either a front squat or a goblet squat. What that trains people to do, she already knows, what that trains people to do is keeping your spine upright, letting your belly button or your tailbone go down, but getting in a squat position that allows you to use your ankles and knees, so that when you are traveling through that vertical plane, that you're balanced. And a front squat is such a weight. The front squat would be having a bar across the front of your body. And so then it's or holding it, or you can hold it like this, is going across your shoulder blade. So it's naturally dropping your spine down. So you're constantly fighting it, which is a very useful position in snowboarding. And then a goblet squat is the same variation, but like imagine this is a weight, I'll hold it in front. Again, it's like making me want to dump. So I keep my spine upright, allowing me to get that full range of motion, but I'm understanding balance. And I use that all the time. When I'm landing a gnarly jump, I'm sending it, I land flat. If I flex at the hips, I fall over, land on my face. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to send it and save it. So I'll do those. Big fan of those too. So a lot of core with the rotation and stop, front squats, goblet squats, and then third one, explosive jumping. Big fan
Plyometrics.
of Biomechanics. So one thing that you could do is get a band around your shoulder and put it either attached to the ground or like really heavy dumbbells, and then jump against resistance, as well as incorporating knee pulling up, very similar to what you do on snowboarding. You would get low, you would jump, but then you would bring your knees up, and you can train that explosive power with the thought process of keeping the spine up. Again, I want to train your body in a way that allows you to be in this high heart rate, almost panic mode, while keeping the right fundamentals, so that when you do go snowboard, that it all compiles and I don't have to think about it. I just do it. The last thing
training
I would add
those
is
landing mechanics.
Landing mechanics. And then when we train the landing mechanics, keeping my knees out and tracking my knees over my toes. So I do a lot of stuff slightly in, like those jumping squats, I'll go slightly inside my stance, at my snowboard stance, and a little wider, so I can train the different body position, but I'm training my knees to go over my toes. One thing that I do all the time, I'm sending it off of a jump. Now I'm going to land flat, 15 feet to flat. As right before I land, I actually think about my knees going out so that they match the angle of my bindings, so that I'm in a biomechanically strong position. So as soon as I land, my knees are tracking over my toes. If my knees collapse in, then I'm putting a lot of vulnerability on my knees. It's very dangerous. So I don't want to do that. I'm trying to send it and save it. So then I consciously will think about my back knee going out so that I can be in a biomechanical position, but I train that in the gym as well.
Yeah, no, I teach people that a lot too with both the goblet squats, so that ankle range of motion. If you don't have that full ankle range of motion, putting like something under your heels will actually help you gain that a little bit more, and your knees can track over your toes a little bit more. So doing that. And then same thing with like those deep squats, both in the goblet squat, when you're jumping, anything like that, like actually absorbing and going down and being able to come back up to like a strong stance. So many people land either like just an ollie on flat ground or like a jump or whatever it is. And like I'm so guilty of this, is I'll just try to stop my rotation with like barely any bend in my knees or anything like that. I'm not actually absorbing. And then I like hit a heel edge or a toe edge, and I have no control. So if you can practice landing flat and absorbing for a second, coming back up to like a normal squat length, one, it's going to help save your joints. And two, you're going to be able to ride away a lot easier, which is something that you brought up to me as well, which is so sick.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And I watched this dude on TikTok the other day. Homie knuckles the jump, lands, and just bounces. He just never absorbed it, and he fell. He like fell to his face. And I was like, oh man, that could have been easily prevented by just landing on the knuckle. It sucks. It's not sick. You're doing your best to land it. But if you can absorb it, then you have a better chance of not dying. So it's just like exactly what you're saying. And cross-training these things, like these situations. And I love that you talked about single leg movements, because let's say I'm going off of a cliff and I jump and I'm landing in POW. Well, that means I need to land with most of my weight on my back. Yeah, backseat intentionally. Well, I need to make sure that my knee can handle that. B, I have the strength to land, not get spit out, be able to absorb that, and be able to stand up while in control. Kind of asking a lot from your snowboard and your body. So being able to do those single leg movements are definitely underrated for sure.
And being able to find that balance point of your belly button that's now having to shift over, which is like same thing in rails that I struggle with so much, is like you have to shift your belly button over to where your center of gravity is. So if you're on one leg, you're naturally going to shift into that hip a little bit.
Yeah. And just so that people that make sense at home, here's a rail, here's my belly button. If my belly button's over here, I'm going to fall over. So she's saying as you're on that 50-50, you're stacked. So now you're balanced. But what if I was doing a board slide? Well, if my board's over here, my belly button's in the center here, well, then I actually got to shift everything so that it's all stacked over the feature, but being able to move laterally towards the nose, towards the tail. What are they called? Like Cossack squats?
Cross-hack squats.
That where you go like you're in a wide stance and you go lean left, lean right. Dude, one of the sickest things ever that people don't do.
Yeah, no, those
it's
are
my
like
fourth
some of
on my
like
list, but we only had three. So
Yep, and then adding a twist to those, cool. You're basically doing a board slide, training that. So yeah, no, I love that. Which are those are all fundamentals that we broke down in camp. So kind of that was a long camp section, but if you want to go to camp, highly, highly recommend pivoting in camp this last year. Tommie dropped a lot of his Benetech stuff. So if you don't know, Tommie's creating like a whole brand called Benetech with all of his like he's wearing a sweatshirt right now. I have the goggles right here. He has the goggles right there. Got a sick like backpack over here with the Benetech logo. So yeah, super sick. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, like what made you want to start Benetech and like why is it unique compared to like other brands? Like why would people want to buy this? And then I'll talk about why I like it.
Ooh, yeah, exciting. Uh, I really have had such amazing experiences and really terrible experiences with goggles. And I feel like the two big things with equipment is goggles can make or break your day, but so can boots. Well, I don't really want to get in the boot business, but I really love goggles. And I love the way that if you get a sick pair of goggles, people are like, dude, those are dope. But you also like look good, feel good. But then you also need a pair of goggles that have the performance to be able to handle whatever you want to throw at it. And so like I'll be doing like back threes into moguls on a low light day where my friends can't even like ride through the moguls and I'm sending it. I don't want my equipment to like hold me back or limit me. So I really wanted to have another thing that I can help impact somebody's day in a positive manner. And the reality, and we haven't really talked about this, but I'm recovering from a hip surgery from a year ago and I'm still in a lot of pain, pretty miserable with it. And at the end of the day, like my whole existence depends on my ability to snowboard. Well, the reality is I'm not going to be able to snowboard forever and have that ability. So I wanted to create something that I could have an impact on people snowboarding in a positive way that also doesn't depend on me having to snowboard. So it's just like trying to create something that can, play a part in the industry and just do something, just do something bigger.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think like there's so much gear out there, kind of what you mentioned. Like a lot of it's really good. Like there's a lot of brands that I love. There's some that
Mm-hmm.
are like meh, but obviously people have their own opinions on whatever. But
Yeah.
what makes like Benetech goggles specifically like better than other goggles out there,
Well, first we choose really
in your opinion?
awesome. Yeah. They're amazing. So with these goggles, I really love Zeiss lenses. I've had a lot of really good experience with Zeiss lenses. What's good about these are 6% light transmission. So even on the gnarliest sunny day at Mount Hood, while it's 70 degrees out, these are going to protect your eyes. But because they're such high quality lens that on low light days, I still ride these. I went to Japan and rode these black lenses, 6% visual light transmission as well. I rode these every day because they're like so clear and so crisp. I just rode those. I'm not a fan of switching out my lenses just because it's a lot of work. I just want to go snowboard. I don't want to maintain my gear. So that's something that I'm like really hyped on, is having a really good gear. I'm a big fan of magnetic lenses, but something that I've had happen in the past is like when you put your goggles on and off, the frames are not like, they're not made of metal. They're not rigid. So what ends up happening is like you might put your goggles on and then the lens will pop out. So what we did is added this little notch thing here. If you can see that, little
Yeah.
notches. So those line up and then that's going to give you more vertical strength. So when you're snowboarding or putting them on, that you have more vertical strength. So trying to improve a concept that is already there, but I love magnetic lenses. So if I'm like already sweating and kind of going on a tangent real quick, like foggy goggles, if you're like starting to sweat already, your goggles probably gonna fog. Well, you just pop them off and like air it out. And as long as you separate your goggles at night, then you're not gonna get fog between the lenses. But if you get sweaty, gnarly powder day in Japan and you keep them in your microfiber cloth and they're just in there, they're just, it's not going to be sick. Trust me, I did that. It wasn't fun. But yeah, I think like that. And then thicker straps I added. What I've been soaking the thicker straps is it's just way more comfortable. But I had a
Mhm.
pair of goggles that were probably only like 30 days old, but I had like snowboarded in Power Bunch, and then the straps got really wrecked because they were so wet, and then they get stretched, so they got really folded and stretched out. So I went with the thicker straps, just trying to make it more comfortable and more sustainable. And then if you wanted to, you can actually swap out these straps. So we could also argue a little bit more sustainable. So if like I sell straps pretty affordably on the side. So if these get ruined, wrecked, you just pop them out, switch them out, or you can customize them for your own look. And then you can, then all of the lenses are compatible. So you can get different styles and different colorways and all that. You can switch out your goggles, do some custom stuff.
Yeah, no, that's super sick. I'm not gonna lie, when I was so stoked on these goggles, but I have like the smallest head ever. Like I'm pretty sure my helmet is a kid's helmet. I'm pretty sure I bought a kid's helmet. And so I was like, shoot, like these are so sick, but they're so like massive. Like look at these next to my face. I was like, these
Right.
are huge. And then I put them on and I was like, wait, these actually mesh with my helmet and like they're not that big on my face. So I was actually super stoked on that because I thought I was gonna have to give them to my boyfriend, but they actually fit me like really
Oh,
well. So if you have a small head, these will work, I swear. And
and
then
yeah,
what was
I was
that?
gonna say they're like a medium fit. They're definitely not small. They're definitely not massive. More of a
Yeah.
medium fit. So kind of worked out.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, so I rode in these the last day of camp and I took a gnarly spill last day of camp and they didn't fall out. The lenses never popped out. So if you're worried about magnetic lenses, because I know like Blender did that at one point and they were like notorious for falling out,
Mm,
these will definitely stay in. So super sick on these. And same thing that I don't know if this was on purpose. I'm assuming it's not because not every helmet is the same, but like you and I both wear our goggles under our helmet because
mhm.
steez. And and these like never gave me a headache under it because the
Mm,
little plastic parts like hang out, which I think is just on accident. But my other ones used to give me a headache, so super sick. Definitely love
yeah.
them. Come with a second lens. I never had low
Yeah.
lights, so like super stoked on that too. So these are coming out on September 5th, which I think is going to be after this is released. So they'll be linked down below, and same with all the other Benetech stuff. So if you kind of want to talk about that as well, I have one of
Yeah.
your like waterproof hoodies, and then anything in the future you can possibly talk about.
Yeah, so that, and I appreciate you wanting to talk about this too. It's very exciting. Going through this process of manufacturing has definitely been a big challenge. These goggles have taken me over 40 months to develop, to manufacture, to receive and sell. It's been a really big investment, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, and been thankful for the people who have like supported. So big shout out to pre-orders and Kickstarter, my dudes. And it's been a big process for sure. So right now I have a special and it's a limited time. If you go, and the link will be down below, and I have this cool little package deal that comes with like a blueprint of your snowboarding. So wherever you are to wherever you're going, there's going to be a blueprint. So you can see exactly what level you are and then what is next to learn. I also have a free PDF of a blueprint for your snowboard tricks. Same thing. You'll be able to fill out this little sheet and see where you are, see what you learn next. Also have some free workout plans that come with it. And I may be adding an extra bonus to that. And then I also have like a free foam roller. So the whole thought is like they're dropping in September, October, November. I want you to be set up for the sickest season ever. Well, instead of just getting goggles, get this goggle and a bunch of awesome stuff that's going to set you up for becoming a better snowboarder and having a sick day. The whole idea is to have a positive impact on your riding. So why not throw everything at you? So there's going to be limited quantity. So if you want to check out the website, it's going to be linked down below. And we're going to have a nice little special. I also have like an online snowboard course I might add there. I don't know yet. We'll see. But go ahead and check that out. I got to sneeze. I apologize. Maybe. Awkward. Here we are. And then as far as the products that we're going to be launching in the future, what I'm trying to do is trying to find a very fair balance of moving forward with new products, but also making sure the products are good. So I'm releasing some new tech hoodies. Big fan of tech hoodies because they're like having the waterproof functionality of a jacket without feeling restricted in the jackets. One of my least favorite things is when I just do this, that I feel the restriction in my arms and my shoulders, and I feel like I'm part of the Christmas story. You don't know. Yeah, Christmas story. If you don't know that reference, it's totally cool. But I don't want to feel restricted. So I have some version 3 is coming out. And we're already like turning out new versions, trying to like take whatever we have, make it more awesome, take what we have, make it more awesome. So we got some really sick new colorways that are coming out, some small logo designs, different logo designs. And then we're already working on our next version of our goggles. Got some really cool ideas. But it's still in the early phases. So hopefully this season I'll be testing out some of my next iteration of the goggles that are going to be called the Benetek ISO. Really
Ooh.
stoked for that. And these are called the Benetech viewfinders. Part of my naming scheme is like essentially like it's all surrounded right around the theme of like camera gear and camera equipment. So then the naming scheme is going to follow some of those elements, which kind of just bridges snowboarding and obviously the YouTuber stuff that I do.
Yeah.
And then I already have gloves. Backpacks are probably not going to be ready this season. I made some backpacks this summer. I want to make a couple improvements going into next year. I'm not sure if I'll have them this winter or not, but I do have a website that will have that. So I got, yeah, jackets, hoodies, stuff. And the goal is to just make some product that is really focused on quality first. That's
Yeah.
why I want to, that's
No,
why I don't want to spread too thin. I want to do like V1, V2, V3, V4, figure it out, and then go sideways and move somewhere else and do something else.
yeah, no, I think that's huge because there's so many brands out there that like just popped up out of nowhere and then you get their stuff and it always looks super sick, but like the quality's just not really there. And like
Mm-hmm.
snowboarding, you're outside, especially if you're riding a lot, like they can just deteriorate so fast, especially if you're crashing or like anything like that. So yeah, all of your stuff never had an issue with any of it breaking,
Oh,
which is super dope. And I have one of the tech hoodies too, one of the like V1s of them. So like
yeah.
just a plain black one.
Yep.
Super sick though, because I hate wearing shells. Like if I can get away with it, I'll never wear a shell because I just
Yeah.
hate feeling like a marshmallow and
Yeah.
restricted and all that kind of stuff. So I always
100%.
ride in that and I'll just layer underneath it. So I think that's super sick because it's literally just a waterproof hoodie, which is the best.
Yeah, that's something I want to get into, and I've got a couple samples of puffy jackets because I'm a big fan of puffy jackets. Because then the great thing about puffy jackets, they're lightweight and freaking warm. So then I would want to wear like I wear a puffy underneath this hoodie, or I have my tech hoodie and wear a puffy underneath. So I want to get into puffy jackets, but they haven't been up to the standard that I want. So that's still like going through the sample phases. And I don't have investors. I don't have people that are just like give me a bunch of cash. So any money that I make, I just put it right back into product development or samples or into the next version. So it's not like I'm just sending out everything I have. It's like, okay, I do have to like grow slowly and smoothly. And that also helps me just make sure that like keeping the quality under control. But I also need to be smart and learn. And I'm not just having, oh, here's $100,000, just go burn. Oh, that didn't work. I don't have that kind of money to like test and like hopefully it works. Like I
Yeah.
don't. So just trying to be smart about it and learn through the process of manufacturing and running businesses and trying to make it successful. And it's been something that I really wanted to learn because more that I learned about this back end of stuff is like, holy cow, people like 686. You guys are incredible. Being able to do like that kind of stuff at the scale they do it and for as long as they have, and they're like an independent owner, like that's
Yeah.
like it's just absolutely impressive to be able to like go through that and see how they do it and the ups and downs of manufacturing and the struggles and communications, and like there's so much involved, more than I can ever imagine. We just see these gloves, you put them on, all these things suck. It's like there's so much energy that went into that. Not saying that
Mm,
everything is good, but like there's just so much thought behind it. But at the end of the day, like my gear is not going to be for everyone. And if you like my gear, awesome, super pumped, and hope everyone tries it. But I know like sometimes the sizing, it might not be the right sizing, or there's, and that's like part of the thing that's been struggle is like, how many sizes do I order of what? Well, it's like small, medium, large, XL, double XL. Okay, well, I ordered this. Well, you don't have that. And I'm like, it's
yeah.
that's been a big challenge. Like I would have bought that if you had it in that size. Like, well, I don't. I would have bought that if I had it in this color. And I'm like, it's really hard to cater to everyone and everyone's
Yeah.
preference. So it's like a fine balance of like catering to as many people as you can, while also having a brand identity and
Yeah.
not just going with what everyone else wants. Like you got to have some kind of brand identity and your colors and what I want it to be, while also catering to doing that. And then the end goal is just be able to create some opportunities for some jobs and employ people. Being able to take the money that I get from this company and putting it back into the industry is definitely the goal. I have some really cool, clever ideas for some social media content that I want to do, and I have to follow and subscribe if you want to see that. But I got some, I know, shameless, shameless plug. But yeah, I just wanted to be able to like do some fun, creative stuff with that as well. And that's also part of the cool thing about doing this on my own is like, it's got to figure it out. And if it works, cool. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but you'll learn from it. It
Yeah.
wasn't a failure unless you don't learn from it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I can't say it's a failure by any means. I've seen people wearing your stuff out on the mountain. So, I mean, people
Crazy.
definitely love it. I know that's probably such a surreal feeling.
It's so wild. I was the first year I sold Benetech hoodies, I sold like a white hoodie, and some homie he just snowboarded by. I was in the lift line and he was like 50 feet away and just snowboarded by. And I was like just the craziest humbling experience ever. And like, it's just so wild to even think about, like, that people even like the content that people are supporting. And it's just, and that's like, I want to do right by those dudes by having good quality product. And we're definitely trying our best, and we'll learn, and there will be ups and downs, but the goal is to just reinvest in quality and quality.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, in terms of sizing, like, you know me, as long as you have like a 14XL, like I'm down. So
Yeah, going into this year. So we took all of our, like, let's say our double XLs are now our XL, and our XL is our large. So we like essentially everything went up a little bit so that you
yeah,
could fit the puffy underneath. And I like my stuff a little bit baggier. I like the baggier look, but I also like the functionality of putting a layer underneath instead of being super tight. So we did size up. V1 was a little small. V2
yeah,
was medium, and now we're going a little bit baggier on the next one. We're doing custom prints too, custom like designs that are going to be I got some stuff coming in really soon. I'm really stoked on getting some of that stuff in. They should all be here in like October, so I'll have like
yeah.
5-6 new colorways of tech hoodies, some basics, some a little bit more out there. So then that people have been loving the tech hoodies. I didn't know that they were as popular as they are. I'm really stoked. And I wore them a bunch in Japan, and not Japan, and when I went on like another trip, and I wore them a bunch. I was like, these things are sick. Can I tell
Yeah,
you a
no,
quick
they're
story
super
of why
nice.
I'm doing tech hoodies?
No, absolutely not. No, go for
Okay, dang it. All right,
it.
well, on that note, I'm leaving. I was at Mount Hood, and I put a sample tech hoodie in my backpack, and it started freaking raining on us, and I had never worn this hoodie yet. And I was like, I'll try this thing out. Put it on. Freaking raining for like an hour and a half. We're snowboarding. Half the crew went home. I stayed. It's raining. Did I tell you it's raining? And I literally had this tech hoodie on. And then sun came out, and I was like, oh, it's not raining. I lift up my jacket. My shirt underneath is not wet. I was like, what? And then within
Yeah.
like 5 minutes, it's like the top layer gets a little saturated, but it doesn't actually go through. And then within
Mhm.
5 minutes, I'm like completely dry. And I was like, this thing is incredible. Holy cow. And that's when I went down that road based on the experience that I had. Like, yeah, tech hoodies are cool. Holy cow, tech hoodies are sick, and they're
Yeah.
versatile. That's what I was really stoked on.
Yeah, definitely. And they're warm. Like they're not like the warmest jacket out there. Like
Nope.
if you're snowboarding in like, I don't even know, like super north and I don't know. I ride in Arizona. I don't know what cold weather is, but anyways.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
But they are pretty warm, and then you can layer underneath them as well. And
Mhm.
then like when it is snowing, you're not going to get soaked. Like my pants still get wet because I can't seem to find a pair of waterproof pants. But you know,
Right, right. And they're like just stretchy enough. Like, one reason I love this hoodie is like they just stretch enough. And that's what this tech hoodie also does, is like it stretches in a way that allows you to have the freedom of movement to do the tricks you want. I don't want to be like frozen when I'm trying to do like, a backflip or something. So I definitely like that aspect of the tech hoodies. We designed some pants going into this season, but I'm not going to launch them. Again, I just don't want to. I want to. I just don't have the financial, the money to invest in pants. Again, I want to be able to like. I'm going to focus on these tech hoodies, and then I'd like over the summer to maybe later this winter to do some product testing of the pants.
Mhm.
Also wanted to come out with like a summer line where I'd have like some sunglasses. I have some really sick sunglasses designed. I think they're like, give me 1 second. They're like kind of, so I got some like 3D printed sunglasses here that we're working on. And one thing that we're doing is making like, how do we see this? They're like got like little mountains and stuff, and they're like in the
oh,
temple, so
sick.
they're gonna like little mountain range and stuff. So then woo! So these are just like 3D printed stuff. So constantly thinking about forward, and like I do want to be like a year-round company that has some like really sick stuff, like sunglasses and pants and like some nice hoodies and stuff. So definitely forward thinking about that, but it's like you know finding the right balance of putting too much stuff out there. Do we dilute the quality, or just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall hoping it sticks is also not a really good business plan.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I've always wanted to start like obviously this is like the business I'm starting right now, but I've always had like a dream of starting some sort of like streetwear type of
Mm,
clothing brand. Like I don't know if it'll be like I've thought about like doing like snowboard clothing, but I don't know if that's like exactly what I want to go into. I really have like no clear thought of it, but I've always wanted to go somewhere into that realm because I just love like snowboard culture, like old street style videos and just like stuff like that. Like I want to bring that into some type of product, but I just don't know exactly what. But yeah, I've been talking
mhm.
to actually your digital artist and stuff about different things like stickers just to start with and stuff like that. So it's super sick. But yeah, I think it's super cool to just go all in on one thing, make sure it's really dope and people love it, and then you can kind of expand upon that.
Exactly. Hillary's awesome, by the way. Yeah,
Yes.
she's amazing. And that's like been one thing that's been super cool is like most of the stuff I do on my own. And a lot of people almost expect or imagine I have this like massive team. But it's like, yeah, I have somebody who like films me, but then I do all the editing, coming up with all the concepts and developing the websites and doing a lot of that stuff. And then I have Hillary who will like help with some design stuff and some website stuff as far as like the graphic design. So like love and appreciate her helping out. And like a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff is done on my own. And two reasons. I just one, just don't have all this money to just spend on recklessly, right? If I have money to spend, I need to put it in inventory. And the second big thing is like, I need to know. I have a friend of mine who's like, you need to develop as many different skills as possible. So, like, yes, I might not, I know how to build a website and I know enough about building websites. So when I hire somebody, I know if they're doing a good job or not, or how to edit videos. I know how to do that. So I'm developing so many skills along the way by doing the YouTube, the content, the product development, so that I can hire somebody and I know they know what they're doing. Or if they don't know what they're doing, I can help guide them in that direction. So being like a business owner and doing this stuff on my own has been like what I want to do. I never went to college, but I'm extremely resourceful. I'm going to figure it out. I might not have the background, but I have the stubbornness and the resourcefulness to like figure it out. Doesn't matter what it is, I'll figure it out and at least understand it enough. And then if I need to like contract that out, that I
Outsource.
can outsource as I need to. But like it's been amazing to be able to just like figure stuff out on my own. I don't have a
Yeah.
social media background. I just started posting, figured it out. I don't have an editing background, figured it out. Like all the stuff I do on YouTube, I'm just figuring it out. But I'm just trying to get better every single time. That's the mission.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do, especially when you're a small business. Like you don't have the resources to just like, I don't know, put everything in, put all of your money in. Like you still have to live and eat food.
Yeah.
So it's just
And
like starting
yeah,
the
it's
bus and doing it.
and that's it. It's like I would rather invest myself. And so when I do live streams or anybody's like buying product, like I appreciate that so much because it's just like insane to even think about people are doing that. But I also feel like it's only fair if I deliver them a good product in exchange for something. I'm not just asking like, hey, give me $1 million. It's like, no, here's a really sick pair of goggles in exchange for your money, not just give me your money. Like there's so much more. There's so much more involved than, and I really understand like when you work hard for something and that $200 is like X amount of hours, like you want that to stand up to the expectations. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm investing in myself. And that's like an extremely scary thing because I could just not, and there is no backup plan. There is no safety net. Like I don't have that support. It's on my own. And so when people
Yeah.
buy stuff, it's huge and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like creating value and getting people the results that they want when they're investing their money and like their work hours into you is so important. Like that's everything that I'm doing. Like obviously I'm just starting out, like you're just kind of starting out with Benetech, like what, maybe like a year or so you've been 2 years?
2 years going on the
2 years.
third year, but I've gone slow,
Yeah.
gone
Which is
slow.
good though, because you want to make sure what you're doing is actually worth it for these people and you're giving them the value that they want and that is actually worth it for what you're doing. Like, I'm never gonna
100%.
go up to someone and be like, you need to do this because this will change your life. I'll be like, I'm going to do everything in my power to get you the results that you want in this amount of time. and I will take every single feedback that you have so I can keep improving and keep improving, keep improving. Like that's my
Yeah.
goal, is to make people's lives better in snowboarding, which is, I'm assuming, the exact same thing that you're trying to do as well.
Oh, 100%. I don't know everything. And coming in with an open mind, I might not implement your feedback, but having an open mind where I will like take it into consideration is like a big thing, because
Yeah.
everyone's got an opinion, and sometimes the opinion's really good, sometimes it's not. But having the open mindset of like, you might know something more than me, and I'm going to listen. And that's, it comes from like
Yeah.
people who are like other instructors or other coaches or other fitness people. You probably have a lot. And like, I might agree with that, might not agree with it, but having an open mind allows me to have the opportunity to learn. And that's like a big thing too, especially going into like camp. Like, no, I know how to do this. No, I know exactly what I'm doing. Then why are you here? Like, you got to have an open mind. And I appreciate that, like when people have an open mind, but I also have to have that for myself. So having an open
Yeah.
mind and just hearing people out and like, hey man, I think you should do a smaller logo. Oh, interesting. Who else has that opinion? Let me do a survey. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
65% of people prefer the smaller logo. I had no idea, but I was
Yeah.
open and then tested the theory. And I think that's like something that's nice about being a small business, is I have that flexibility to like change directions. Okay, cool. This is working. This isn't working. And when you get into manufacturing, for those that don't know, you have an MOQ, minimum order quantity. So like when you go to these big manufacturers, there's 500 units per color. So
Yeah.
let's just say the item's like $50. I don't know my calculator, about 50 times 500, like what, $25,000 for one
Mm-hmm.
color. Well, like I want this hoodie in black, purple, blue, and orange. Well, that's $100,000. So it's like, that's really the requirements that you end up getting from a lot of these bigger companies when you're at
Yeah.
that large scale. So once you're committed, you're committed. Well, being a small business, I have the ability to do V1, V2, V3 pretty effortlessly. Cool. Within one season, I could create 3 different versions because I'm not 500 deep. I'm only 50. Cool. So
Yeah.
those, you know what? We want to change this one little thing. Boom, V3. So being a small company, I can pivot and innovate and change really quickly to accommodate the needs of those that are buying the product, but also learning through that experience of like, oh, this could be 1% better. V4.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I agree. Just constantly learning, because like the whole goal is to serve the audience, serve the people that you want to help, and take what they have and then move on with it, make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the goal. If I can just focus on quality, which I am, then I think it'll pay off for sure.
Yeah. So I guess kind of going into this last segment, I had people on my Instagram see if they had any questions for you. So I believe I got a
Ooh, uh-oh.
few. So we can go, let's jump like 2. So
I'm down. I
someone
got all day.
says,
We stay here for months. I'm fine.
um, they said how to leverage expectations of what is possible for being over 40 and relatively fit. So I'm assuming like
Hmm.
what are good expectations if you're older trying to learn how to snowboard?
Ooh, that is a very good and interesting question. I might have to take a second to think about it. Let's see. Expectations for over 40. I think realistically understanding like what your goal is, and what I don't want to do is be like, you know what, you're over 40, you can't backflip. What I would say is if your goal is to backflip, your expectation is what skills and what facilities, or sorry, let's start with what skills do you need to do the backflip? Okay. You got to be able to go fast enough. You got to be able to pop. You got to be able to get in the air. You got to be able to land. Cool. What facilities can help you learn that safely being over 40? Being over 40, things consider are jobs, responsibility, kids, mortgage payments, blah, blah, blah. You got to work. So the expectation is what trick is within the reach that I could learn? What skills do I need? And then where can I learn that the safest way possible? And I would say something like Woodward Copper has a airbag, or Woodwards in general. They have like an airbag and a foam pit and a trampoline and coaches to help facilitate that learning experience. At summer camp, we do the same thing. There's airbags to learn how to do stuff. And then being able to understand those steps. So it's more about setting the expectation of what skills do you need and how can I do this safely with the facilities, which may require you to go travel somewhere or go build a jump into PAL.
Yeah.
But also the expectation of like within realm, right? If you want to go 40 years old, go in the Olympic these days, pretty unrealistic. So finding something within that reach, but you could try,
Yeah.
right? Don't they say shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon?
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I think like in the broad scheme, I think anyone can do anything they really want to do. Like there's pro snowboarders that are out there that are pretty old, but granted, they probably started when they were a lot younger. But some of them didn't. I mean, some of them started when they were like 19 to 21 years old. And I think like a big thing with that is like I started snowboarding when I was 18. So I didn't get that, like I didn't get to start before I had fear, which is like I think such a huge thing is like a lot of these gnarly snowboarders, it's because they started when they didn't have fear, and when you don't have fear, you
Yep.
can learn all these tricks and then it just becomes muscle memory. But when you're learning and like you have fear, like that starts taking a huge toll on like your capabilities and what you think you can do. So kind of going off what you said, like starting really small on something so you can kind of build up that confidence. And then also just on like the health side of it, like if you're over 40, you're a lot more likely to injure yourself. You just your joints start breaking down, your body starts breaking down easier. So having that like strength training and different like mobility issues and stuff like that that you can build up so that when you do inevitably crash and you do inevitably fall, like your body can be a little bit more resilient than if you didn't do any of those things.
Absolutely agree with that. It's a big part of the reason why I like work out is to make sure I have like muscular structure around my bones and my body so that if I win, I take a fall, then I'm okay. I also don't skip shoulder days. We don't use our shoulders much in snowboarding, but I fall on these things. I want to make sure they're not popping out. So
Yeah.
doing that stuff to minimize the chances of injury, but being fairly fit, could always be more fit and get into the gym and send it and just be strong. And then either reduce the chances of injury, increasing your performance, or making recovery from an injury coming back sooner.
Yeah.
The
And just
last
having
thing,
like
one more. Sorry, snaking, cutting you off. I also feel like hesitation is a killer.
Mhm.
Therefore, I need to be fit. I need to be strong. I need to be knowing the skills and having the right situation. I don't know if you can hear that, but having the right situation so that when you are trying it, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to land it. Because if you're fearful, you're going to bail halfway through. Then you're going to land on your head. So again, like doing it into a foam pit or into POW is like, okay, well, you want to be committed. If you don't, at least you have like a fairly safe escape from that. But if you're just doing it on a park feature, then it's like full commit. Well, if you don't commit, you're hesitant, you get hurt.
Yeah. I mean, there's
My bad.
70-year-olds out there that are like hitting park features. So I think as long as you're progressing at
Yeah.
something that makes sense for you, like if you're brand new, okay, learn how to carve down a black. Okay, now you can start on like getting a 50-50 and then you can try board sides. Like take that progression. Like if you're just learning how to carve, don't try a backflip, you know? Like
Yeah. Within that realm, that reach that's right in front of you.
yeah. But once you start getting certain things, like we said earlier, like you can keep progressing. Like there's no endless, and I don't think your age should be like a limit to that, as long as it's something that you want to do and you're willing to like take all those precautionary steps to do it.
Yeah. I
And then
agree.
we're running. We wow, this is 2 hours. I've never had a podcast go this long. This is sick.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
So
I'm
next
into it.
one, last
If you're
one.
still
Let's
here, I appreciate you sticking around. Let's break and go.
the
Podcast
last
life.
one. This is more technical. How to get a good heel turn on a jump for a front side spin. I keep washing out and catching.
Ooh, okay. Catching, interesting. Okay, two thoughts are catching. I wonder what they mean by catching, like
I
catching an
think
edge off
like
a takeoff.
probably what I do, where you keep over rotating after you land and then possibly catching an
Mm.
edge.
So two big things that are going to be extremely useful is your takeoff position. So if this is like the jump, your belly button wants to be stacked over your heel side edge. So there's a jump here. This is my snowboard. I'm on that heel side edge. I want my belly button to be over that heel side edge as I take off. What we tend to do on front side, it's front side trick, right?
Hmm.
What we tend to do is our belly buttons go way out here. Now I'm actually slipping out. And let's just say that this is my phone. If I'm slipping out and I'm in this position, well, then I'm going to land back in this position instead of if I took off more flat, guess what? I can land more flat. But if I'm already like super twisted, then my body position is going to be super off. So what you can do is be more stacked over that heel side edge and lift up your back ankle, which is going to allow you to get tilt in the snowboard, which is going to allow you to grip on the takeoff without having to be leaning so far over. most times we lean so far over, it's because we're trying to create a tilt and get edge on the jump, but then we've gone too much. So lift up your back ankle. It's going to give you tilt. And then as you land, make sure that you're always leaning uphill. So if this is the mountain uphill, then as I land, even if I'm like, when I'm sideways on the landing, I want to be leaning uphill. If my board is pointed straight down the hill, then I can be even totally. But if I'm sideways, the only reason I catch an edge is because you are leaning downhill. So lean back uphill. Got a little technical, but here we are.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like something you've said to me before too is I start taking off on my three like way too early. I start like spinning before I'm even in the air. So like nailing down that carve, that little carve that you take on the cheese wedge, and then once you start lifting off, then start your spin is something you've like mentioned to me.
Because what we end up doing is a lot of people throw by throwing they create the rotational momentum by doing a turn. So I just go like this. Well, now I'm still on the jump turning, and then I've actually slammed on the brakes. I put the e-brake on. So our goal is to actually throw through our spine, and we want to wind up our spine and throw as, here's a good analogy. Imagine we're trying to swing a baseball bat, and I got it all wound up, and I use my legs to rotate the bat to swing. That's a terrible idea. Why would you do that? What we would theoretically do is rotate through our spine and our hips. We swing and we rotate through our body. But guess what? Our feet never left its place. Our feet stay the same. But as a snowboarders, we're trying to actually swing the baseball bat using our feet. It can work, but we're not going to hit a freaking home run. Could we hit the ball? Yeah. Is it going to go far? No. So then our goal is to actually wind up through the spine. And this is the takeoff. I want to be able to take off here and then do my spin here instead of here. I'm not trying to take off here. So it's my little analogy for that one. I just came up with that. I've never used that before. That was good.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something I have like it built into my training program. Also, shameless plug is that a lot of the rotation things that I give to people is I'm making sure that your feet stay planted because we're trying to get that mobility in our spine and that power through our spine movement without pivoting our feet and moving our whole body into it, because that is also what I do when I snowboard, which is wrong. So
which is less awesome.
Yeah, less cool, not sick.
So then like the other thing is like when we have a slippery surface, which is our snowboard, and anytime we have ever spun, let's just say we're going to do a flat ground spin on the ground. How do we initiate that? Through a turn. Our whole entire existence as a snowboarder up to this point, we've used this tactic of using our turn to spin for the most part. Now, all of a sudden, we're in the park and we're trying to do this thing. Well, I'm just going to do what's intuitive, what I've been trained to do, which is not what we should do. But that's why people like you and myself are here, is to help you find a more awesome way to do it. And then you understand the cause and effect. You understand why this is not so awesome and how this could be more awesome. Having that information, that knowledge is definitely invaluable.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for coming on. This has been an absolutely crazy long podcast, but it's been so great because I think we've gone into so many different topics, like both the trick breakdowns, like your background, how you got into snowboarding, you got your brand in here. Like we've been dumping tons of knowledge here and there. So I think it's super sick. And yeah, if you guys don't follow Tommie already, like I said before, like what are you doing? So if you just want to let them know like your account names, where to find you, I'll have it all linked down below too, but just like go ahead and do your little shameless plug.
Well, before we do that, we haven't even talked about my hip injury. There's so much more that we haven't even talked about. So we'll definitely have to do another one because I'd be super down to do another podcast. So you guys make sure you're following her on her podcast stuff as well. And then I'm Tommie Bennett on YouTube, and it's IE. Thanks, Mom. She spelled it with an IE, Tommie. And then YouTube is Tommie Bennett. On Instagram, Tommie1, and then on TikTok, it's Tommie B. And yeah, I plan to put out a lot of content. I'm doing this little thing this year where I'm going to do 30 videos in 30 days on my YouTube channel. So I'll be making like full videos, vlogs, educational, everything. I'm going really ham on the content this year. I've actually retired from coaching and going full time content creator / running Benetech. So I'm putting everything into it. And so, yeah, I just subscribe, going to be putting out a lot of educational, entertaining, a lot of just snowboard awesome content this season.
Yeah, so sick. And I'm gonna be trying to do the same, taking some stuff from Tommie. We'll see what I can come up with, but
Do it. Send it.
send it. But yeah, so thank you again for coming on. We'll definitely have to do a part two, and definitely go check out Tommie. Like, subscribe, comment, all the YouTube things.
Woo! Appreciate you guys. Let's go.